Welcome back to the party, everybody. This is Morty, and I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Everybody hit that like and subscribe. You know I would do it for you, and let's party. Welcome back. We are talking about the woke right once again, but we are getting the final word. The final word is here. Dave Smith was on with Tucker Carlson yesterday, or the day before, whenever it was, and the final word is in. So let's jump right in, guys. As always, if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know.
Dave, I'm really glad to see you. I know you've been here before. It's nice to have you back.
I am an expert in all things Tucker Carlson.
So, I know you've been asked this a million times, but I'm coming to this late. How do you assess the debate that you had with Douglas Murray? Now, it's been a month. How long's it been?
Something like that.
Something like a month, right?
Yep,
so
a few weeks.
Looking back, what was that?
What was that indeed? What does it? Okay. We got Morty in the building.
It's an interesting
guys.
question.
Don't forget, every single donation comes with a treat for my co-host Morty.
I mean, I think essentially it was what everyone saw. It was. It's like my
we are who we thought they were.
first impression of it. My impression during the first half hour of the debate, I was like, well, Douglas just embarrassed himself in front of the world, and
You felt that in real time.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it was. Look, he was ridiculous, and it was kind of strange to witness as it was happening. I go, so you decided to open the debate by just chastising everyone as not being as good as you, that the expert class ought to be the ones consulted.
Well, if you knew how to debate like an expert, then you would know that the experts always start out debates that way.
You could argue what he was saying, but he was clearly saying that you guys on podcasts are simply not qualified to talk about these subjects. Now, you're saying this on the Joe Rogan Experience. Of all places to go and deliver this message, this is the place guaranteed to turn the entire audience against you. And of course, I just think that I think it's a ridiculous non-argument that never would have made sense. But coming off of the COVID years, the idea that you're going to convince people that you ought to kind of they ought to trust your opinions. That your class ought to be trusted was a ridiculous.
But he's not even.
Yeah, you're going to have to prove that you are trustworthy before that happens. Shout out to Nick Luchetti, moderator to the stars. Welcome. We got John Castle in the building and United. Welcome, guys. Very good to see you. Oh, thank you so very, very much. 5 people, 5 likes. You guys know that warms my heart. Let's dive right back in.
Opinions. That your class ought to be trusted was a ridiculous.
But he's not even in that class. I mean, he's not. I know Douglas, and I think that I've always gotten along with him, and I think he's clever. But he's clever in a boarding school way. He went to boarding school,
right?
Because I did.
Clever in a boarding school way. I don't even fully understand what that means, but I know that's a bar.
And you instantly recognize it in the way that he debates, which is by dropping references that suggest deep erudition that doesn't actually exist. I think he's clever. He's got a kind of bullshitty boarding school vibe to him, again, that I recognize, that I have sometimes.
Right.
So I'm not, not trying to be holier than thou, but like the idea that he's an expert is absurd. He's a journalist like the rest of us who's been taken on PR tours in various countries by their governments trying to win his support. Got it. I've done that too.
Well, then you've been.
But he's hardly an expert on anything.
Well,
so right. Like, what?
Right. Well, also, it doesn't look all of this.
Hey, shout out to TV Viewerski. Welcome to the problem. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That he's got no street smarts. He's very clever when it comes to the book learning and stuff. But yeah, not very many street smarts. Welcome to the party, sir.
An expert on anything.
Well,
so right. Like, what?
Right. Well, also, it doesn't look all of this. So the analogy that I've used about it is that like if you had 2 UFC fighters that are going to fight, so they've signed the contract, they've done their training camps, they show up to Madison Square Garden, they both get in the octagon, and like one of them puts up his hands, and then the other one puts his hands down and goes, I'm such a better fighter than you. And this is ridiculous that me and you are even fighting. It's like, oh, okay, but we are.
That's such a brilliant analogy. It is exactly 1-to-1 on the nose what happened, except for instead of a UFC fight, it was a debate. Spot on.
But we are. We're
signed
here.
up for it.
Right. We both accepted. We're both here. So if you are such a better fighter, if you have trained so much more, if you have all these advantages against me, well, then you can't just, you have to demonstrate that. Take on the argument. You should be able to then.
Since you're such an expert. Shout out to Amanda Price in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you as always.
Destroy me. And so he weirdly opened with this thing where he was going to turn everybody off, turn everyone against it, because the style is bullshit. Even if you're, and I've had lots of people who are pro-Israel reach out to me since then and be like, listen, I disagree with you on the issue, but that was ridiculous, the way he attempted to argue. Because weirdly, number one, you're turning everyone against you. And number two, you're just setting the bar so much higher for yourself. Because now once we start actually getting into the debate, you've already explained that you should be dominating me on every facet of this, and yet you're not. And yet actually when it comes down to it, you have no answer for the points that I'm making. And that was the theme of,
and no
of the entire
knowledge either.
Yes, that's right. But there was there were 2 points in the debate.
So I mean, obviously this stuff we've talked about a little bit before. This is kind of rehashing all this stuff, but
That actually stuck out to me the most. And it wasn't the have you been, which is, was the funniest thing that everyone's making that, Douglas will be mocked for eternity for. But, he made his own bed. But the 2 points to me that really stuck out in the debate, because this is the way my mind works, is that I'm like, oh, if you give me something, give me something to challenge me on. That will actually keep me up at night, by the way. If you were to be like, no, Dave, you got this completely wrong, and you need to read these 3 books to understand why you're missing all this information.
Can I interrupt and say, knowing you pretty well, I think, I mean this, I believe, I would take a lie detector test and pass. I believe that if you read those books and found that you were wrong, that you would admit it.
Oh, yeah. And I've done this lots of times before. Yeah. I have views from a decade ago that are quite embarrassing in hindsight.
Yeah, I mean, if you're paying attention to people who that's not the case, where they realize they're wrong, they'll be like, uh-oh, well, I guess I'm just going to keep going with the wrong answer. You don't need those people in your life.
I was an atheist at one point. I was pro-life. I was pro-choice at one point. Oh God, this is bad. I was for open borders. At one point.
I've had all of those views.
I've had some really bad views over the years, and I've changed my mind.
Do you think Douglas would admit if he was wrong?
Well, of course not. I mean, that's obvious, so that's right?
No, but that's kind of the acid
Well,
test,
look,
right?
if you can get Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Ukraine, and COVID wrong, and then with certainty say you're right about the next one, and then also arguing that the other person should have some humility. I mean, come on,
just a little bit of humility, all right? Shout out to the viewerski. Thank you so very, very much for the $10 PayPal. Of course, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. He's loving it. Thank you. Hit the right button, and of course, that makes you and Morty the new sponsors of the stream. Thank you so very, very much. Don't forget about our swole goal, guys. That is 1 out of 15. We can do it. Thank you, sir.
Also arguing that the other person should have some humility. I mean, come on. What is this?
It's so good.
It's just too, you couldn't write, if I just scripted this for you and wrote it on a script, you'd be like, take it down. And this is too ridiculous. No one would believe this. But regardless of that, so there's 2 moments that actually really stood out to me in the debate. So number 1 was in the Ukraine portion. Number 2 was in the Israel portion. So in the Ukraine portion, at one point, I said to him, we were talking about the, what led up to the war. And so he said something like, he goes, the real question is why all these countries wanted to join NATO. I mean, we didn't incorporate them in NATO through force. And I was like, well, yes, obviously, that's the argument, isn't that we forced, the governments willingly wanted to join NATO.
Yes.
I was like, that's pretty obvious why. You'd want to be have your defense subsidized and want to have the most powerful government in the history of the world guaranteeing your defense. Sure. Yeah. And also because they're concerned about the former Soviet Union, which is still Russia. And okay. But I was like, but that wasn't the argument. The argument is, why would we do this? And so I was like, let me just give you 2 bullet points, right? 2 quick arguments. And the 2 quick points that I made were, number 1, the "niet means niet" memo, which of course, as you know well, you've talked about this a lot. You talked about this back on your Fox News show, was that Bill Burns,
later director of the CIA, yes,
the CIA director through Joe Biden's 4 years, who was the CIA director through this entire war up until Trump took back over.
But then the ambassador to Russia.
In 2008, he was the ambassador to Russia. He wrote a private cable to Condoleezza Rice. This was not for the public. This was a private cable that later the heroic Julian Assange released. It's the only reason we know it exists. And he lays out in there that all this talk about Ukrainian entry to NATO is going to lead to a war. And he specifically says that this is the brightest of all red lines for the Russians. And if we keep moving forward, they fear this could result in civil war, and then they might have to intervene. In his words, quote, a choice the Russians do not want to have to make. So it's like, hey, there's a pretty compelling piece of evidence.
Yes.
And then number two, I said, Stoltenberg, I always say this name wrong, but the head of NATO, Stoltenberg, the head of NATO, he said,
You don't even know his name? What kind of expert are you?
That Vladimir Putin in late 2001 put in writing, sent a draft treaty to NATO and said, if you just put into writing that you will not bring Ukraine into NATO, I will not invade the country. This is the head of NATO. So I give him these 2 points, okay? I could talk a lot more about this, but I was like, let's focus on these 2. Seems to me that all the powerful people involved are admitting that this war was about Ukrainian entry into NATO. And his response was, the war was not about Ukrainian entry into NATO. It was about Vladimir Putin's desires to reconstitute the Soviet Union.
Based on, the desire that fits your narrative.
I was like, yeah, but what's the response? Like, what's the response to my point? Like, I made a point. You made nothing. You just made an assertion. So there was this one where it's like,
just saying things. Hey, thank you for the share, guys. You know how much that really does help. Hitting the like button, hitting the share button. Even if you don't think anybody's going to click on your link, it does not matter. Just by showing YouTube that you want other people to see it, they will show it to other people. And shout out to John. Welcome back. Welcome. I'm wicked smart. You like apples?
Point. Like, I made a point. You made nothing. You just made an assertion. So there was this one where it's like, once you actually get down to it, once you remove all this, like, you're an expert, you're not an expert, you've never been, what are you watering? What are you've got no actual argument here.
Because you're not an expert yourself.
Right. But even that, it's like that, again, just the way I work, that doesn't do anything for me. Then you got to have an actual argument. Otherwise, you're not going to persuade me. And I think for most of the viewers.
Knowledge, too.
Right.
And I just refer back to the boarding school thing. It's like, the whole point of that style in debating is to create the illusion of knowledge. Like, you have an Aeschylus quote, sort of, you know what I mean? Or you can cite the titles of 3 D.H. Lawrence novels, but you haven't read the novels. You haven't read Aeschylus. You don't actually have you don't have an original thought that's actually yours. But you don't even have the material. You haven't even read the books.
Well, that's why, I think the Oxford style debates definitely have their place. There's definitely a time, a place, a type of person, a type of topic that works for that Oxford style debate where, person A opens and then person B opens and then person A and goes back and you have 5 minutes on the clock and that kind of stuff. And it can definitely be very interesting, but it's just not the only way to discuss things, and it doesn't cover how people think and interact. You're not going to get a conversation out of that, which is why the podcast space blew up so much.
Yours,
but you don't even have the material. You haven't even read the books.
Right.
Oh, we're skipping that. Don't you worry.
It's just it's a sleight of hand, and
I usually would show it, but everybody gets mad, so we'll just skip over the religious stuff.
That's what they teach you in boarding school.
Well, so then the other one, which some people did pick up on this, but this to me was like actually the biggest moment of the debate, I thought. And it's sad in a way, because Douglas Murray is someone who I have some degree of respect for as a smart person. And it was kind of sad that he was reduced to this. But so he made the argument. He said, first off, he was dishonest. And I didn't call him, I know this, but I let it slide. But he goes, I was very iffy about the war in Libya. It's like, I've read your columns at the time. No, you fucking weren't. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but he goes,
I would have loved to, because that would have been something that they could have easily pulled up and shown that, you're, regardless of what you're saying, regardless of whether Dave is an expert or Joe's an expert or Darryl Cooper's an expert or anything else, Douglas Murray lied. I think that would have been very impactful to the people who walked away from that thinking that, Dave got smashed, have you been?
It's like, I've read your columns at the time. No, you fucking weren't. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, but he goes, I was very iffy about the war in Libya, but the war in Libya was fought because there was this tremendous fear that Gaddafi was about to go genocidal, and it was a humanitarian intervention. And so then I said, okay.
Now they have slave markets in Tripoli.
Right.
It's humanitarian.
But forget even the point that, okay, maybe their argument is they thought he was going to go genocidal and they didn't realize it would be so much worse without him. Like what? But I said, okay, Douglas, so riddle me this then. If it was a humanitarian intervention, how come I have 4-star General Wesley Clark telling me 10 years prior that we had already made the plans to go overthrow Gaddafi, because he said this very clearly to Amy Goodman on Democracy Now. And then I mentioned that he later, actually very recently on Piers Morgan, he clarified. This is really interesting. If people go watch it, Scott Horton, who is amazing, by the way.
Shout out to Scott Horton, and shout out to you guys. I got a nice atheistic crew here. And yeah, so I mean, you know, I'm not going to hide the fact that we'll get there when we get there, but there's a part that we're going to skip where Dave is going to religious stuff. And, you know, I'm happy to give my opinion on that, but you guys tend not to like it. And John and Nick aren't here for it either. So skip right on over. Not like we can finish the whole thing anyway.
Terrified. This is really interesting. If people go watch it, Scott Horton, who is amazing, by the way. His book Provoked is the best book on Russia, the U.S. post collapse of the Soviet Union relations. His book, Enough Already, is the best book that's been written on the terror wars. So Scott Horton is debating Wesley Clark on Piers Morgan. And this gets brought up. You know, the fact that you said in 2001, you had already seen in the Pentagon that we were going to overthrow 7 countries in 5 years. And okay, so he says, he goes, well, actually, the plans go back to 1991. And I saw them first from Paul Wolfowitz's office. And then basically the plans got killed. And then they were revived by Richard Pearl and a study paid for by the Israelis. This was 4-star General Wesley Clark's comments on it. So I brought that up. And I go, well, look, you're going to
seems relevant.
Say that this is a humanitarian intervention, but that seems strange because the plans to overthrow Gaddafi were already written many years earlier. And then they had their opportunity and they did it. I think it was more than just a humanitarian intervention.
Not so much humanity.
And then his response is this thing about how Paul Wolfowitz's name starts with an animal and ends Jewish. And it was kind of funny the way he said it. But then he went, be careful what you're watering there. Because you can't, a lot of people are going to hate Jews if you just start bringing up Paul Wolfowitz's name. And I just could not believe, by the way, the end result of that is he had no response to what I was saying. He didn't have a response to why this was.
Exactly. You took the words right out of my mouth. John said, but that's a Jew's name. Sounds like textbook anti-Semitism. Don't say that name for whatever reason. Because we don't like it. We don't like what's going to happen when you say someone's name. Sounds woke to me. Sounds woke to me. I think we did that, right? No? Okay, well, shout out to our boy King Nirvana. Welcome to the party.
By the way, the end result of that is he had no response to what I was saying. He didn't have a response to why this wasn't.
Paul Wolfowitz has an identifiably Jewish name. You're abetting anti-Semitism by bringing it up, even though he's a government official who helped get us into this war that killed 1 million people.
Yep. According to Douglas Murray.
Yeah, he's also in other places talked about how Paul Wolfowitz is like a hero in the Kurds in Iraq, consider him a hero because he was the architect of the war that overthrew Saddam Hussein. But like, I'm not allowed to mention him because which is, first of all, it's just beside the point. Like, forget what this will lead to. What's the truth? That's what matters.
So he's, of course, a very pro-Kurdish, I would imagine.
Right. Yes. I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, I actually have been there.
What have you?
I have been there. And I can say firsthand, the most brutal people I've ever met in my life were Kurds. Like, actually, I saw it firsthand. So I'm not against the Kurds or whatever, right. But it's just interesting. Everyone in Washington, no one's ever met a Kurd, can't define what a Kurd is.
I don't know if I could. I mean, I know that people are Kurdish, but I could. Where are they from? Shout out to Guam Tech. Welcome to the party. Very good to see us. And unfortunately, any Indian Jesus Discord member probably has seen exactly what the woke right is recently. Indeed. If you want to know what we're talking about, then check this out. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our disciple chat for members only, our word of the day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join.
Hello, come and join.
There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. And of course, remember, guys, that if you join the free chat tonight, you get a 1-day free pass for the entire thing, including the after party. Like I said, as soon as we're done here, we are headed over there. So come on, join us. All right, let's dive back.
Interesting. Everyone in Washington, no one's ever met a Kurd, can't define what a Kurd is. But everyone reflexively loves the Kurds. And I've never had strong views about the Kurds. But again, I just want to say I've seen.
Yeah, I'm trying to think on it. Where are Kurds from? Okay, Kurdistan. Okay, yeah. Let's see a map. Let's see a map. All right. So now none of us are going to be those people who don't know where the Kurds are from, and Kurdistan's right there. We learn something new every day.
Everyone reflexively loves the Kurds. And I've never had strong views about the Kurds. But again, I just want to say I've seen it in action in Iraq. And I was shocked by the Kurdish behavior personally.
Yeah. Well, also, it was all the people who are, were knocking Donald Trump in his first term when he wanted to pull out of Syria. And they were like, what about the Kurds? We can't betray the Kurds. And then those same people will tell you what a great president George H.W. Bush was. But we can't betray the Kurds, right? There's the guy who really betrayed the Kurds. I mean, told them to rise up against Saddam Hussein and overthrow him, and then decided, we're going to back off of that, and just allowed them to get slaughtered, But
yeah, I bet you have quite a different perspective on all this.
Look, I mean, it was just kind of blatant. It's like, I'm presenting an argument and you're responding with a pure woke tactic. Exactly. A pure woke tactic to say, which as I mentioned to him, I go, but wouldn't this apply to everything you stand for?
Yep.
I mean, everything you stand for about how we shouldn't have so much Muslim immigration into the UK. Yep. Okay, well, someone could take that and that might lead to a rise in hatred of Muslim people. But that's not a counter argument. No. That's not an argument. That's like, well, okay, well, then maybe you could say you should also add in there, I don't mean all Jewish people are guilty of some conspiracy, but that, first of all, I'm Jewish and he's not. So like, what
I wouldn't say about? You're Jewish. So that gets me to, I mean, I don't think you've convinced Douglas that you're Jewish. So I saw that. And
are you sure you're a Jew?
And read the commentary after. And as someone who's always liked Douglas and known him for a while, my first instinct was why he just destroyed his career. Like he's done. No smart person will ever take Douglas seriously again. And I don't know if he felt that way, but it was clear by a day or two after he realized he destroyed his career. And
I mean, sadly, that's not the case at all. Sadly, a lot of people loved every word of what he said. So, I mean, that should be the case, but that is absolutely not the case.
In response, rather than admitting that and admitting what he'd done wrong, he attacked you, really kind of doubled down in the New York Post. I want to read this because I was offended by this. He goes, the whole column's an attack on you, and I'm quoting, claiming some Jewish ancestry, Smith has spent the last 18...
I thought that was a joke. He really doesn't believe that Dave Smith is Jewish. That's hilarious.
Claiming some Jewish ancestry, Smith has spent the last 18 months since October 7th being very unfunny. Indeed. Claiming some Jewish ancestry. Now, I'm not really sure. Well, I don't know why that just,
well.
Like, what does that mean? What is it? What are you trying, like, he's Jewish. Why are you elongating that into some other idea, as if he is implying something that's not really true? And again, John, I don't think he did. Again, I think we see that he ruined his career with people who are not woke, but there's a whole woke contingent on the left and on the right, and they will feed into that. So I disagree. I completely disagree.
Not really sure. Well, I don't know why that just, well. So what, do you claim some Jewish ancestry?
My mom and dad are probably the big ones. I do claim some Jewish ancestry. But yeah, it was so, well, first of all, I joke, but I'm not even the first, because everyone made this joke already about the art, but he says, I haven't been funny. And Douglas has never been to one of my comedy shows.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. It's right there. It's low hanging fruit, but sometimes TV said he's toast. I'm telling you guys, you will hear Douglas Murray's name again. You can wish and hope just like I am, but you will hear his name again and a lot, and not always in a negative context.
Come and check it out, and then he can tell me what he thinks. I think I'm pretty damn funny in my shows, and the audience seems
I said, shit, me too.
to think so. But
what
again,
is your Jewish ancestry that you claim? I mean, first of all, he suggests that you're like a fake Jew.
yeah.
Claiming some Jewish ancestry. It's like you're hiding behind a cloak of ersatz Judaism.
Which is, in a way, one of the things I thought was so interesting about the piece was that, and I couldn't imagine, man, I hope I'm never this person. Because even now, right, like there's so many shots I could take at Douglas. But even when you ask me about the debate, like my first instinct is to go like, well, look, here are the points I made that he didn't have counters to, because I'm about the argument, like that's what actually matters. And it's tough for all of us because there is, as you know well, you've talked a lot about this, right? But it's like in this kind of show business news world where we're talking about events and things that matter, but also there's a camera on us.
Yep, John says Muslims gain power. People like Douglas will have something to rail against, and people will listen.
And we're talking on a microphone, and we're public people, and so it's kind of impossible to completely remove your ego and your own narcissistic tendencies from that.
Yes,
but like you got to keep reminding yourself, like, yeah, but there's a fucking war going on. Like that's what actually matters.
I know.
All of this is much less important than like the actual policy. So.
And that's a very different thing than someone like Hassan when he's caught in something that he doesn't know, or he said something incorrectly, and then he gets called out. He's like, well, but there's a war going on and you care about words. That's not the same thing, because they were there to discuss the war, and he's worried about expertise. And how do you mean? John said, Dave can't drive. He literally can't drive a car. There's that. Okay. Is that true? What? Didn't he live in New York most of his life?
Like
that's a New York Jew.
That's what actually matters.
I know.
All of this is much less important than like the actual policy. So you try to focus on that. But I could not imagine writing an article about a debate that I had just been in where the reaction was so unfavorable toward me. And in the piece, what you might notice is he does not take on a single one of my arguments.
Nope, just the same woke tactics that he used in the debate.
Does not point out something that I got wrong. He does not say, Dave argued this, but this is so clearly
yeah, maybe because it's the reason. You'd be like, Lutch always gives the thing, takes a treat in his hand every time he gets a super chat. And someone's like, yeah, that's because he gets it to the dog. Like, everybody says that. Yeah, that's because that's the reason. It's very, very, very common for people in the city not to know how to drive, because it doesn't I mean, they get IDs. Most, I wouldn't say most, and it's very, 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 very common for New Yorkers not to know how to drive. Shout out to Mike Harlow, who just moved to Florida last year, and he just learned to drive when he went there. I mean, it's like if you're trying to imply that he could not learn how to drive a car, then obviously that's not the case. It's just that, like, you don't know how to drive a plane. Yeah, because I take United.
He does not point out something.
Actually, I prefer JetBlue. But
that I got wrong. He does not say Dave argued this, but this is so clearly a reflection of his lack of knowledge on this subject because he didn't account for X, Y, and Z. It's just just like the actual debate. He would only debate me.
I could fucking rip it, baby.
Wouldn't debate the topic.
So why do you think he did it? I mean, he was basically, it felt to me like he was sent on a kamikaze mission. That's the way it looked. Here, the guy.
That is the best description I have heard. Is that how you? That's not how you spell kamikaze, right? But that is the best explanation. That there must be some reason where he needed to go in and destroy. Like it was a false flag for the establishment, or something like that. It was just a kamikaze mission.
To me, like he was sent on a kamikaze mission. That's the way it looked. Here, the guy just flies into your aircraft carrier, doesn't sink it, but it destroys his plane, his career. Like, I don't get it. In
a sense, I don't think Douglas Murray destroyed his career. I think he destroyed his reputation. And so his reputation amongst the people, but his career is actually going to be fine. Much like Kamala Harris's career.
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Because I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say? I told you exactly what
is actually going to be fine. And I don't know. I'm speculating a little bit with this because there was not almost any interaction off the podcast. Like Douglas Murray showed up 5 minutes later, we were recording. He left immediately afterward, and me and Rogan hung out for a little.
Yeah, I bet he did. I bet he didn't want to stick around. So, guys, we had the poll. Do you have an understanding of what the woke right refers to? And most of you said yes, but 40% of you said no. So the way that I like to talk about it and define it is the mentality that makes one social justice warrior on the left. They have left-wing positions, but the mentality they use to get there and the mentality they use to defend those things, that mentality exists going in the other direction. As James Lindsay said, same energy, different direction.
Was where he showed up. 5 minutes later, we were recording. He left immediately afterward, and me and Rogan hung out for a little. So, like, there's nothing more that the viewer didn't see that I saw, really. Hellos and goodbyes. But I think, number one of my guesses, I'm speculating here, is that he just didn't.
You know who else doesn't drive? Donald Trump. What a loser!
Wasn't really prepared for me. And it was like, oh, a comedian will be on there. And maybe he came in kind of confident that like he'll be able to handle me. I've had that happen a few times in my career. I think it's happening less. I can't imagine he didn't like look into me before the debate, but
look into. I would be surprised if he like actually sat and listened to podcasts and stuff. He probably saw a bunch of clips and listened to like maybe Rogan and stuff like that. But I would be very surprised if he felt like, oh, I need to prepare for this, because his whole attitude was, you have nothing, you're just a comedian. And then he ironically had nothing. So I think he didn't look into you at all.
My career, I think it's happening less. I can't imagine he didn't like look into me before the debate, but maybe that's possible. But the feeling that I got as it was going on was kind of, okay, do you remember, I'm sure you do. You remember very well when Kamala Harris was running for president.
Yes.
I know that seems like a long time ago, but that actually happened, which is really crazy.
That did actually happen. That did actually happen. And we were not that close, but I mean, close enough to having Kamala Harris as the president of the fucking free world.
It's like a dream sequence.
Now, it's not just that Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney endorsed her, but she started bringing Liz Cheney out to campaign events and campaigning with Liz Cheney. Now, if
that'll work,
you were just looking at this on paper, you'd go, okay, what demographic of voters is this for? And
it's for the the BoomerCon people who believe the news and think that the Democrats are bad, but Trump is worse. Very obviously. Very, very obviously.
Okay, what demographic of voters is this for? And you'd very quickly realize that that demographic doesn't exist.
No.
Are the leftists, they still remember her last name is Cheney. And especially with the year that had preceded that, like,
it's definitely not for the young leftists.
They're kind of anti-war again. And they're not really into like the idea of we've got a Cheney on our side. It's not going to win you. It's not going to get out your base. And then on the other side, I mean, she lost by like 50 points in her congressional run. I mean, it's not like you're bringing Republicans in. And so I think the only thing you could conclude is that, oh, this isn't actually for the voters. There's somebody else who Kamala Harris is talking to here.
Of course.
There's a power source that may be a little concerned about her. And she's trying to let them know, don't worry, I'm good for business. I've got Liz Cheney right here.
Hey, I mean, that definitely makes a lot of sense. But those BoomerCon people, you bring out a face, they know, ooh, you know, like the Leo meme.
That's kind of my assumption. It seemed to me with the Douglas Murray thing, he wasn't playing to the audience. He certainly wasn't trying to persuade Joe.
No.
He perhaps was talking to a different audience,
Clearly.
which will make sure that his career is just fine going forward. That's the sense I got.
If you want to make
I think that is a better way to articulate what I was trying to say. That there and John, you said it. That there's plenty of what did you say? I don't know where you said it, but there's plenty of Zionist conservatives. There's plenty of people who are woke and like that gatekeeping elitism that's going to keep his career alive.
people paranoid and hateful act like that.
Well, again, look, there's two things that I really want to make sure I express. Number one, with the thing where he's this claim some Jewish ancestry thing, which, by the way, would be, I think, if you were to ever do this to say like a Jewish person who was on your side, you would be like, well, that's a pretty anti-Semitic thing to do, right? To like,
just like we did here, because we are not woke and we have principles, not just positions.
challenge their Jewishness because they disagree with a policy. But
what does your Jewishness have to do with it anyway?
Well, right. That's the whole fucking point. And that, it does. I think it's basically like this. I think that particularly when it comes to the Israel stuff, a lot of these guys don't know what to do with me because
actually, I want to go back on that. I want to go back on that because that is a big part of it as well. The wokeness on the right is that it is the mirror that we see. The issue with the woke left was identity politics. And we weren't seeing that with MAGA when the whole movement was kind of united against that woke leftness. But listen to what he just said here.
Your side, you would be like, well, that's a pretty anti-Semitic thing to do, right? To like challenge their Jewishness because they disagree with a policy. But
what does your Jewishness have to do with it anyway?
Well, right.
Identity politics. That's what it has to do with it. That's wokeness. It's just on the right now. That's it. It's not a complicated thing. Wait, am I missing? Oh, I was behind there. John's gotta go. Thank you for stopping by, brother. Next, I hear he's orange because he's using an early version of Iron Man's arc reactor and it's leaking radiation. Very possible. Very, very possible.
Their Jewishness because they disagree with a policy. But
what does your Jewishness have to do with it anyway?
Well, right. That's the whole fucking point. And that, it does. I think it's basically like this. I think that particularly when it comes to the Israel stuff, a lot of these guys don't know what to do with me because typically
but he's a Jew and he doesn't have the Jew position. What do we do? Sounds woke.
Every American who's ever criticized Israel knows you get labeled as being a Jew hater. You must be anti-Semitic. That's why you would say something like that. Like, remember that horrible anti-Semite Pat Buchanan who said that the Israel lobby wanted a war in Iraq? She just hates Jewish people. Like, even though we all know that's true, when you say it, they go, you're an anti-Semite. That's like the game that they play. That's much tougher to do when you're talking to someone who's Jewish. And so in a sense, that ends up being kind of a shield against the accusation. And so they want to remove that shield so that you don't have. But the bottom line is that no one should have that shield. And I am Jewish. My mother and father are both Jewish. I think I was 86% Ashkenazi Jew on my DNA test.
And this is a similar thing why I feel a little bit of an obligation to really try and nail down. And I mean, it's not like a life goal or the goal of the channel or anything, but to have the discussion with somebody who is willing and able to talk about why the Black community TM is a bad thing for Black Americans. That is something that I believe, but it is very difficult to have that discussion, especially if you're white, because you can just be called racist and that's the end of the conversation. But because I'm not white, I get that little shield. And as he's saying, you shouldn't need a shield. If you're white and you're making an intellectual academic argument as to why the Black community, the Black community does not help Black Americans, then it shouldn't matter. It should be the merit of your ideas. But because of the woke, that's not how the world works. Shout out to CT223. Welcome to the party. Said the Wolfowitz thing was the craziest claim. Name sounds like a Jewish animal, so it's anti-Semitic. It's crazy. Yep. Woke is pretty crazy. Welcome. Gontek, so why do we like Dave Smith and not Ethan Klein when it comes to Jews against Israel? Couldn't there be a missing element outside of supporting Palestine? It's almost like there's ideas there. It's almost like it's not about their identity. It's almost like it's about their ideas.
Are both Jewish. I think I was 86% Ashkenazi Jew on my DNA test. I think that's enough. But the point is, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter at all. Anybody.
We're talking about the behavior of nations, by the way. Nations with militaries and parliaments, congresses. Like, these are countries. And what does this have to do? I mean,
well, first of all, and this isn't even the most important point, but the American taxpayer is forced to pay for this stuff.
Aware.
So, but even if you didn't have to pay for it, if you're a human being, forget even an American, if you're a human being, you have a right to have an opinion on any issue you want to have an opinion on.
But this is what the left did during COVID. It was like, wait a minute.
What did he say?
Right to have an opinion on any issue you want to have an opinion on.
But this is what the left did during COVID.
Yeah. And what did we refer to it as when they were doing that? We were saying that's so woke and they're being woke, right? So now we're being consistent when we say that behavior is woke. Indeed. Shout out to Box. Welcome to the party. Very good to see you, sir. How are ya? Doing well. Hope you are as well.
You have a right to have an opinion on any issue you want to have an opinion on.
This is what the left did during COVID.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a second. It seems like this you're telling me it came from a pangolin in a wet market, a fish market, a mammal sold in a fish market, somehow, was the genesis of this virus. But there was this level 3 biolab like a mile away. Maybe that was the source. And they're like, you hate Asians.
Right.
True. I've never had COVID. This is another How I Met Your Mother joke. Has she met Ted? No, she has not. And you have to go over there. Can you guys please just go watch How I Met Your Mother? Please. Just once. Please. Okay? Just please. Once. Can you just be cool for once? Please. Just once. Just for one time. Please. Be cool. See, that's another How I Met Your Mother joke.
Was this level 3 biolab like a mile away? Maybe that was the source. And they're like, you hate Asians.
Right.
It's like,
right.
And they claim,
Yeah, if you said it came from this very established lab, then that's racist against Asians. What really happened is that these motherfuckers were eating bats at a wet market.
What?
If you say so.
lab like a mile away. Maybe that was the source. And they're like, you hate Asians.
Right.
It's like,
right.
And they claimed racism, so you couldn't pursue that line of inquiry. I see people like Douglas Murray, supposedly on the right, and there are a lot of others like Douglas Murray, saying the same thing. Like you can't express an opinion about where your tax dollars go or about people dying, or else you're a bigot.
Yeah.
How is that different?
Right.
It's not different. It's not different at all. And Box said everyone seems to be watching this episode of Tucker. Anna on T did like an hour on it today. And since we brought up our girl Anna and the Young Turks, let's take a little side quest really quick. And then we'll talk about why that is the case. So what do we got? This
left, and you're like, oh,
nope. What is happening? Are you? What is happening? Are you guys seeing this? Why is the video doing this? That was weird. Okay. Anyway,
Donald Trump.
Oh, that's all we're gonna get. All right. Well, that's all we're gonna get. But
Going to give a lot of credit here to Donald Trump. And if you're on the left and you're like, oh, he brought home a hostage and cut out Israel, but he's Trump. Boo! I don't want to give him credit. What do you need? So did you not want to bring home a hostage? Did you want to make sure he followed the orders of the Israeli government? I don't know what you want, but I'm a fair person and an honest person. Trump deserves a lot of credit for this deal. Okay?
I can't believe I'm saying this. Someone who Donald Trump tapped to serve as his special envoy to the Middle East, Donald Trump tapped him, is way better on this issue than who Biden had involved in peace negotiations and a ceasefire deal. It's just incredible to see it.
Yeah, so look, redemption on every count. So what did we tell you? We told you that the Democrats are a bunch of robots and they're never going to waver 1 inch from what the donor class wants, okay? Trump is a wild card, and that wild card could go disastrously, as when he was talking about how we would have ground troops in Gaza and then build a Trump Riviera, absolute disaster. Talking about maybe the occupation of Gaza and the West Bank, et cetera. But a wild card could also has some chance of going in the right direction. So it took a wild card to have an envoy who will say, well, the Israelis don't want peace.
there we go. Shout out to the Young Turks for calling it like it is. And Bucks was saying that everybody's watching this, and I think the reason is that this woke right thing is really coming to a head. It is no longer being ignored, because the only people that are trying to tamp this down are the woke right people. Notice who's not in the chat. And that's exactly what I said in the my thing. I was like, it's hilarious it's hilarious how difficult it is for them to compliment him. But hey, I will take it. Respect to the Young Turks for that one. And I am about it. Where is my kind of left? I mean, that's the left that I left. Swallowing your pride and saying what's true when it is. So if they're gonna go back and the right is gonna become all woke, then I might be voting Democrat. I mean, I'm just saying. All right, let's dive back in.
Opinion about where your tax dollars go, or about people dying, or else you're a bigot.
Yeah.
How is that different?
Right. No, it's not. It's the same thing. It's the same kind of pathetic tactic where if you can't argue against someone's ideas, you just say, oh, you're a bad person. And that's why you have these ideas to begin with.
Wokeness. And yeah, Guantek said, libertarians, right or wrong, seem to stick to their guns. True. But how many woke libertarians do we know? Socialist libertarians don't count. Those are fake and antithetical. I mean, you can't really undercut your own thing by saying socialist libertarians because they are in fact libertarians. I think when especially since Chase Oliver was the Libertarian Party candidate, it's just not fair to take them out. They are libertarians. And in the same way that people want to look at MAGA and be like, well, some people might be acting this way, that way, that way, that way, but woke is, liking Joe Biden. Not anymore, baby. Not anymore. I'm with you, Box. I'm with you.
One's ideas, you just say, oh, you're a bad person. And that's why you have these ideas to begin with. It's a very low grade, like social psychology attempt to shame someone out of having the views that they have.
Stop me when he gets to the part that's not describing wokeness.
And yeah, it's what the woke did on everything. It's no matter what it was. If anytime I can't remember who coined the term, but is a racist is anybody winning an argument against a progressive?
Exactly.
That's it. And so he's doing the same thing. But then the other thing, which is really separate and secondary from that, but the argument that Douglas Murray is making is that if I call out Paul Wolfowitz, or even, more broadly speaking, if I call out the neoconservatives and how they hijacked American foreign policy and how they very much had Israel's interest in mind, which I get from reading the neoconservatives. I don't get this from reading critics of them. It's from in their own words.
Right.
He's saying me calling that out is fertile ground for Jew hatred to rise. And it's like,
well, according to who? According to a wokey or according to a normal person? There's a Nazi put a video in Disciple Chat where I don't see a Nazi video in Disciple Chat. If you repost it though, we can check it out.
Calling that out is fertile ground for Jew hatred to rise. And it's like, no. What you're doing is fertile ground.
I agree with that.
What you telling me I'm not allowed to call out the deputy defense secretary because his last name is Jewish? That's actually what leads to a rise in people not liking Jews.
I agree more.
Exactly.
And I do think Douglas, though he's not an...
And so I think that if we take that whole thing there, what that really comes down to is projection. Projection. I'm doing the thing, so I'm going to accuse you of the thing and just claim that you're doing the thing, even though I'm doing the thing. I'm making more people be anti-Semitic, but I'm going to claim that you're anti-Semitic because that's the only way I can win. Nixon, I'm such a California kid. It's 64 degrees and I'm freezing my ass off, but it's high humidity, cold, wind coming off the Pacific Ocean. Well, hopefully it warms up for you. We had a pretty cold and dreary day here. All right, let's see what Amanda has for us here from the Babylon Bee.
Hi, my name is Chuck, and I'm a Nazi. Actually, I'm a real card-carrying Nazi. Literally. Here's my card. I've been a Nazi as long as I can remember. I believe all the standard Nazi stuff. I hate minorities and undesirables. I think Aryans should rule the world. The Third Reich shall rise again.
Beast!
All the classics. But it's not as fun to be a Nazi anymore. When they started calling Elon Musk a Nazi and Trump and, pretty much every Republican, it made it a lot harder for me to stand out. It's like I go out in public and I'm like, hey, everyone, I'm a Nazi. And they're like, big deal. Everyone you don't like is a Nazi. It makes me feel less special. The swastika armband, it used to mean something. Now I'm walking down the street and every Tesla has a swastika painted on it. Every Republican's garage door has one. I just can't stand out from the crowd. Nowadays, anyone who owns a Tesla is a Nazi. Anyone who voted for Trump is a Nazi. Anyone who believes in enforcing our nation's laws is a Nazi. Anyone who doesn't want to sterilize and mutilate people in bizarre medical experiments is a Nazi. Mm-hmm. Which is a real head scratcher because, honestly, we've been huge supporters of that. Mengele was a real pioneer. I'm just feeling discouraged. I used to be unique, special, different. There weren't many of us. It took real effort and commitment to be a Nazi. Now all you have to do is simply imply online that you don't think students should be stabbed at football games or track meets, and bam, instant Nazi. I used to be able to seek Heil in a crowded room and really cause a scene. But now, anyone who's doing the wave at a baseball game or sending their heart out to you in a speech is apparently a Nazi. I guess I just want to go back to the old days when being a Nazi meant something. Because if we change the definition of Nazi to include any old Joe walking down the street, it loses its power. Because when everyone's a Nazi,
nobody's a
nobody
Nazi.
is.
Beautiful.
Elon Musk is not a Nazi. Jordan Peterson isn't a Nazi. Ben Shapiro, well, no, he might be a Nazi.
But he's a Jew.
He is? Oh, I just assumed he had a bald spot he was trying to cover him on the back of his head. Okay, Ben Shapiro is not a Nazi. Hey, you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amanda, for that laugh. That was a good one. Shout out to me. Hey, welcome to the party. Said I thought the left couldn't be funny. They can't. That's the Babylon Bee. They are firmly on the right. And I mean, all good jokes have truth in it, right? And so just because we can laugh at that and be like, oh yeah, they're calling everything's Nazi now. We literally, when you have someone who is literally talking about hating Jewish people and, flying Nazi flags and using Hitler emojis and swastikas as their profile pictures, then it's like, okay, yeah, that's not the same as what we just watched. That's you just basking in the fact that, oh, everybody's a Nazi now, so let my Nazi flag fly. Like, you should be... I don't understand. I don't understand it. So the point being, Nazis and neo-Nazis and white supremacists, all that stuff still exists. It's just not as bad as the woke make it seem. And because the woke make it seem way worse than it is, then the actual neo-Nazi white supremacist people can hide among everybody else who just has bad opinions. And that is why semantic obfuscation is such a terrible thing. Stop semantic obfuscation with your own notebook, your own bag, your own greeting card for Mother's Day. If you missed it, we got that and a whole bunch of other designs over at TheIndianJesus.com. Get your own official merch.
An expert or a genius is smart enough to understand that, but he did it anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know his motive, but in the moment that I think...
Well, right. Box said the left can be woke scolds. The right can too. I avoid them like the plague. And so before... we were saying that, woke people are being woke scolded. But now some of the people on the right are doing it. Well, why are they not woke scolded? Why are they not the same thing? Because the argument from the woke right would be, oh, I'm flying a Nazi flag and openly hating Jews, and you're being the woke scold for saying that I don't agree with hating Jews. That's the projection that we were talking about before. Box said, Kanye put out a bop. Shifted the Overton window. Apparently. Glad to have you here as well. Behave. Nick said, I don't like those people. I'm not about to act like they're cool. Just saying. I said, shit. Me too. And, if you do happen to see people, our Discord is a free speech platform. So, if you see people acting out and saying weird shit, it's up to you to say something. There ain't no daddy, there ain't no police, there ain't no nothing to come and save you. It's up to you to make sure you have the community that you want. I mean, I'm going to help. And it's fucking awesome anyway. But diving back in here.
I do think Douglas, though he's not an expert or a genius, is smart enough to understand that, but he did it anyway.
Yeah.
And I don't know his motive, but in the moment that I think made me actually turn it off, I had to stop watching, but it was most revealing of all, is when he goes after Gerald Cooper, the historian, really one of the great historians of the United States, Gerald Cooper, and doesn't know his name.
Yeah.
But goes after him personally as like a Nazi or something. And let me just parenthetically, and I'll shut up after this, but Gerald Cooper is one of the kindest, most reasonable, most fundamentally liberal people I know, anti-Nazi people. I know a guy who you could give your routing number to would never steal money.
Yeah.
A guy who, if he had absolute power, would kill nobody. Yeah. Like a truly decent Christian man, basically called him a monster and didn't even know his name. And
Behave saying the right were actually against the Socialist Nazi Party and Hitler. Hitler was a rampant liberal socialist. And yet now, despite having conservative principles, They are now flying his flag and being proud of his work and all that stuff. Wokeness. I don't know how else to describe it.
Basically called him a monster and didn't even know his name. And so that suggested to me that he was like briefed by somebody before. So make sure you get in this Holocaust denier, which he's not. Daryl Cooper. Like, what is that?
Well, it's also, if you're smearing people who, and Daryl wasn't the only one, but if you're smearing people whose like names you don't know and who you admit you've never listened to any of their work, maybe don't put that right in the middle of an appeal to expertise. Like maybe have that in a different section than in the section where you're going, you really have to know what you're talking about in order to have an opinion on these things. And so that didn't work out very well. Dude, Daryl is an amazing guy. He is brilliant. His work is phenomenal. I know him personally, and he's like genuinely a great person.
He's a humane man.
Yes.
Yeah, but Box, don't you mean they were all atheists? Sorry, I had to throw it in there. And
it is something, it's a comment on our time and on our society that the guy who essentially, if you actually consume any of Daryl's work, as I have consumed a lot of it, basically Daryl's whole kind of his template, the way he operates is there's basically only like a couple rules. And like number one is he has to read everything that's available on the subject. So he reads everything. The guy's a machine.
I wish I could be that person. When I was young, I used to love reading, and school ruined my love of reading, and I never got back into it. By the time I was, reinterested in learning and exploring new ideas, we were in the podcast and audiobook era, and it's just not the same thing. And I don't know. It's difficult, when I'm working on, my other job with the dog training is not doing so well. Then I'm trying to get this new job. Then I got another new job over that. And then I'm figuring out all this stuff. Got to keep up with everything enough to be able to do the show. But all that kind of stuff, I would love to be able to find some time to carve out just for, reading stuff, just anything, just something. But, it's on the list.
Everything that's available on the subject. So he reads everything. The guy's a machine. His depth of knowledge is like second to none. He just knows everything. And then number two is whenever you talk about history, basically his rule is that you have to understand that everyone involved is a human being. Every one of them was a 3-year-old at one point.
Yes.
So like totally innocent, like good little boy, like my 3-year-old that I have at home. And that they grew up in real circumstances and real things happened to them. And if you're going to do history, you have to constantly be doing your absolute best to put yourself in this person's shoes and then put yourself in this person's shoes and then put yourself on this side of the conflict and then put yourself on this side of the conflict. That's basically it. It's pure empathy. And actually, as I've mentioned to you personally, and I've told Daryl this personally, he is probably the best shot.
Bruh. So we have a new running poll. Would you kill baby Hitler if you knew if you knew who he was going to become? And I swear I accidentally wrote Bambi. Amanda said I used to read all the time. The biggest complaint my teachers had was Amanda needed to stop reading her own books during class. Before they would assign books to read. Maybe middle school time. Like that was me too. I always had like Magic Treehouse books and, whatever it was. I was into Harry Potter, the first few books. And then when it was like, okay, now you need to read this book and you need to read this amount at this amount of time and it just like, it became homework. It became a chore. And I'm just, I don't want to do that. And then, like I said, by the time I got back into, I want to learn stuff, then it was a YouTube video or a podcast or an audiobook. And T said, so don't kill baby Hitler then? I just finished the time machine. Hey, I have not said a word. I have my opinion on it. I'm waiting to see what you guys say. Nick said, being dyslexic, I've just never been able to learn well from books. If you can show me something and explain it to me, that's how I'll learn the easiest. But if I have to read about it, I'm scared. Yeah, I hear you. It's also a very, what's the word? I don't know, but you can't do, you can do other things while you're listening to a podcast. You can do other things while you're watching a video on YouTube. You can do other things while you're listening to an audiobook. But reading a book is just so all encompassing. And I mean, that's probably why it's better to read than to do audiobooks if you, don't have issues with it. But it's just same thing with being on the phone with people. I remember when I was young and there was always some girl that was like, oh, I want to spend all night on the phone with you. But then texting came around. And it's just like, why do you want, I'm watching TV and I'm talking to you and someone else. Why would I be on the phone? I don't know. But yeah, good. Shout out to audiobooks. That really does help a lot of people, whether you have dyslexia or you're just not into reading as much. So 10 hours free every day while I work to listen to books. Yeah, and Amanda said audiobooks as well. Yeah, when I was working at Petco, and it was just same thing, 8 hours every day where I could have my headphone in. Then there was, but even still, I wanted to go down the Audible route and get all these books, but I ended up just doing all these podcasts, and it is what it is. He said I had to end my day and starting I'll let you guys read that in the chat.
You personally, and I've told Daryl this personally, he is probably the best shot people have at de-radicalizing people in the worst form of being radicalized. He's the guy, listen, for me personally, and I thought I was pretty well read on the history of Israel-Palestine, and he has this incredibly long series, like a 30-hour series called Fear and Loathing in the New Jerusalem. And like the thing is, I knew most of what I knew, not all of it, but most of what I had read about with the Israeli-Palestine conflict, like most people, was like starts in 1947, 1948, and then goes up to today. His series is about, it's like from the 1890s until 1947. So he's talking about the creation of the state, from Zionism being created to the state being created. And going
from Herzl to Ben Gurion.
Right, exactly. Let
me know the TLDR.
That's basically the whole, he has a little bit where he's talking about the pogroms that preceded, the Zionists, but that's really the story. And it actually made me much more sympathetic to the Zionists. As somebody who grew up kind of in that propaganda, in the pro-Israel propaganda, then ultimately turned on it and became a critic of Israel. Listening to his series, you understand, it just puts you in the position, and you do understand, like, oh, okay, these were real men who were reacting to the circumstances of their day. You can kind of understand why a lot of them wanted to do this. By the way, it's pretty amazing that they pulled it off, however you feel.
I agree completely.
However you feel about what the government of Israel is doing. It's amazing that they did this. And yeah, look, and of course, for the one, this is why I say it's a comment on our time. So there's one guy here who's going like, listen, you got to like really completely educate yourself on a subject, and then you have to have empathy toward all sides. And then everyone goes, Nazi, that guy's a Nazi. That's what it is to be a Nazi in 2025.
It's just so funny.
Apparently, and as we just saw from Amanda's video, if everyone's a Nazi, nobody's a Nazi.
I'm too old for a lot of this stuff. And so I thought, among the many lessons, great lessons of the Second World War that I grew up marinating in, dehumanizing people is bad. Treating human beings like they're not human is bad.
Yep.
And I still believe that. I think it's the core
profound. I didn't think I would hear something so profound.
Christianity. But it's also just the core of any civil society, any decent society. And that's what Daryl is trying to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever heard anybody try and take apart his factual analysis. It always immediately goes to motive. You're a Nazi. Shut up.
Yep.
You're a Holocaust denier.
Or just or claiming he said something that isn't at all what he said. Right. Like he downplayed the atrocities. The Nazis. No, he didn't. It's also
but why? Why? So Daryl Cooper, and by the way, a number of my friends, people I really like, have been involved in this. Like their authority has been marshaled to destroy Daryl Cooper, and I grieve to see it because it's they're paid to do it, and it's so degrading to them and dishonest and sad. But why? Daryl Cooper's like this one guy living in the Pacific Northwest. Why spend all this time and energy to destroy him?
Because he is too effective. I haven't even listened to his podcast either, but I barely even finished the episode he did with Rogan or with Tucker. But you can tell that he has a way to reach people that these elites can't.
Well, I love you said this I forget, a few years ago, I can't remember what it was where you said this, but it was you, and this really hit home with me. And
well, Tony gets a pass.
This isn't like, and you weren't suggesting that this is like a proof. This isn't like a irrefutable logical argument. It's kind of like a guide. But you said the thing about you could tell when something's infected because you touch it and you recoil and you go, ooh, something's going on there. Now, what exactly is it? No, that doesn't prove what's going on. But look, you can't. The fact that Daryl's moment on your podcast, sitting right here where I'm sitting,
Yes.
got such a reaction.
Yes.
Really demonstrates something. Like something, and you see that it's like, oh, you touched on like a third rail.
Or hurt dog barks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and in the same way when you had first questioned the morality of dropping nuclear weapons on cities, and then there's this big freak out over that, and now nobody here has said, hey, the Nazis were the good guys. The Nazis didn't commit any atrocities.
The Nazis were bad
No
guys.
one's even downplaying. No one even made the argument that
I remain anti-Nazi for the word. Yes, for the record.
But
Well, so what we have learned from Tucker Carlson today is that he thinks dehumanizing people is bad, and not only that, but he is anti-Nazi. Wow, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot.
saying like no one even made the argument that like it was 5.9 million, not 6. You know, like there's nothing. This topic hasn't even been broached.
No.
But what you are attacking,
Yet they are still offended.
is really the underpinning of the origin story of the American Empire.
Exactly.
And that's what you're not allowed to question, because and you
like the woke do.
See it the way every defender of every war, including the current one, if you can call it a war, going on in Gaza. I'm not sure war is exactly the right term to describe it.
There's only
it's
one
the
army.
destruction of a captive people. But every single person who defends it will always invoke World War II at one point. Not even arguing that, like not even making an argument that this is why it was justified in World War II. Just like, we did it in World War II. We did it in World War II and we're the good guys. So good guys are allowed to slaughter entire peoples. You know, it's like...
Well, I mean, if you have a woke brain, then that's going to make perfect sense. Good guy drop bombs. So good guy drop bomb always.
It is the... And look, even if you accept the official World War II story as being completely correct, it's still something that's used to justify all of these other indefensible wars. Every war of my lifetime, and I doubt too many people really want to defend the ones in between World War II and when I was born. You know, like I don't think anyone's going like, look at Vietnam. It did such a good thing that we did that. And those who are attempting to defend it are pathetic. But, you know, Iraq and Libya and Syria and Afghanistan and even the ones when I was a little kid, you know, Serbia, every one of these guys, they always said was Adolf Hitler. Milosevic is Adolf Hitler. Saddam Hussein is Adolf Hitler. Gaddafi's Adolf Hitler.
Wait. I thought Trump was Hitler. Ty Cobb, did I say hi to you? Hello. Welcome to the party. Said Amanda Hug and Kiss. Is that the name? I would have perished without audiobooks. Well, yeah, I mean, I can definitely understand. I definitely can't understand just, you know, as the kids call it, raw dog, and not listen to music or a podcast or something. But just for whatever reason, the jump from a YouTube video or a podcast to an audiobook, I don't know. It's just a little bit different. Fox said, war sucks. People lose wars. Losing at war sucks. Like real bad. I think people generally agree with that. Nick said, you guys know why it's popular to drive down the road with a flat tire in Italy? Because it goes whomp, whomp, whomp all the way down. Come on, man. What are we doing here?
Hitler. Milosevic is Adolf Hitler. Saddam Hussein is Adolf Hitler. Gaddafi's Adolf Hitler. Noriega's Adolf Hitler. Every bad guy has always been. It's like they use this model.
Don't forget about morning, guys. He's so hungry.
To justify, you're only ever allowed to learn the lesson in history that's like Chamberlain was an appeaser, appeasing bad, confrontation good, as if the lessons of history are that aggression is always correct. Trying to work out a deal is always wrong.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's...
Well, I mean, sounds like a lot of leftists would totally be on top of that.
So important to attack that narrative.
Yeah.
I mean, I can make the argument right now. People are dying and you want to sit around and talk? That's the argument.
From my perspective, it's like not even about principle as much as it is effect. If what we're doing was working, then I guess I wouldn't be interested in, you know, analyzing it so critically. But it's not working. It hasn't worked for the West, which I love. It's where my ancestors are from. It's where my children live. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's fair to ask, like, how did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, if you even going back to, you know, I think this is the case. So, you know, I was young in the 90s, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember that you didn't need to be so entrenched in politics for everything. It was really in the Obama era that everything, you know, that it permeated every aspect of life. And that is, for better or worse, there's two sides to every coin there. But the idea was that we vote in the people that we trust, and they take care of the bullshit so that we can live our lives. If we are voting people in and then we still have to be the politicians, so to speak, then what's the fucking point of the government? People have brought up the notion of, just having every bill just be digitally voted on by everybody through the blockchain or something. If the government is not doing what we voted them to do, why is that a bad idea?
Are from. It's where my children live. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's fair to ask, like, how did we get here? It's all falling apart. Why? And maybe the assumptions were bad. And what are those assumptions? Well, they're rooted in that war, as you said. It's just interesting that anyone would want to defend that. Like, I still don't get the motive. Maybe I never will. Like, why would you want to defend any of that? Why would you want to defend Dresden or Gaza or any things that America did? But by the way, it's not attacking. It's not attacking Israel. I'm attacking the U.S. government, which I pay for, which my ancestors helped build. Like,
exactly. Shout out to Boggs. Thank you so very, very much for the $5. And fun fact of the day, get Morty his treat there. Of course, every donation comes with a treat for Morty. Well, it's a fun fact of the day. More people in America die due to slips, trips, and falls every year than firearms. Good to know. Good to know. Get a gun and you won't slip or something. Just kidding, but good point.
It's not attacking Israel. I'm attacking the U.S. government, which I pay for, which my ancestors helped build. Like,
yeah.
Why would you ever want to defend bad things?
Well, it is,
That's 2 out of 15, guys, and 15 out of $50. Either one hits the goal. Remember, I'm puny. Check out the goal at the top of the chat. We're only at 10 push-ups this time. If we hit the goal, then we add more push-ups, and you can watch me struggle. It's fun, and I'm too puny to stay this way.
Why would you ever want to defend bad things?
Well, it is, there is a tendency by people who, if you're pulling away like the underpinnings in someone's entire worldview,
yes,
they usually get very defensive.
You're right.
About
You're totally right. I've been, by the way, I've been there.
Yeah.
So that I have felt defensive. When I first heard Alex Jones question 9/11, I was outraged by it. I was totally outraged by it. And so in a reflexive, stupid way. So,
well, I remember just because I was like very I was very on board with the Ron Paul presidential campaigns. This was my like radicalizing moment. Was Ron Paul running for president? And I remember that you were hosting the event that he had. I can't remember what it was called, but it
was the Rally for the Republic.
The Rally for the Republic.
Jesse Ventura.
I should have remembered
2008.
But so
I was the MC of that.
Yeah. So at the time, it was a really big deal for us that we had you emceeing it. And because it was like Ron Paul was getting blacked out in all the mainstream media, as we used to call it at the time.
Yep.
But we had Tucker Carlson. We had like one of the big players in that world hosting the event. And I remember
that's going to give it a lot of legitimacy. I said, you're too young to understand being laid flat on your back with nothing to occupy your mind other than audiobooks. I am old enough to understand before when audiobooks were called books on tape. I don't know how old you think I am, but they were called books on tape when I was a kid, and they were on tape, and they were for old people. So yeah. Nick said Monday was the 43rd anniversary of when my papa died. That's life. It's not fair. It's just what we know we get. So we probably should try to enjoy it. Well said, and dilly to your papa. Dilly. Hey, relax. All right, relax. But, to Buck's point, I ain't no young buck.
But we had Tucker Carlson. We had like one of the big players in that world hosting the event. And I remember when I
walked out.
Well, I saw like an interview with you where someone was like, "Hey, why'd you walk out of that event?" And you were like, "I don't know, man. The saying 9/11 was an inside job stuff was just a bridge too far for me." And honestly, I totally understood that at the time. I was just pissed off at Jesse Ventura because I was like, "Come on, dude, we actually got like a chance here to make a mark, and then you're gonna go, start spouting out with these conspiracies."
Making perfect the enemy of the good. Yet another thing that we see from wokeness.
He believed it. I mean, I think Jesse Ventura is a whole rabbit hole I won't even go down, but I think
I don't know what happened to that guy.
Is a very flawed.
Beard is like, oh man, the beard is
a guy.
Yeah.
For sure, we're all flawed people. I'm a little less judgmental than I used to be. Now that I know the depth of my own shittiness, but which I think is important.
Yeah.
Meditate every day on your death and your own flaws, and you'll be a happy.
I thank you. Thank you. So often you guys see me get triggered by religious language being thrown into political discussions and da-da-da-da-da. But I want to point out here how he very easily could have said, you need to pray to Jesus every day. But he didn't say that. All I said,
I think is important.
Yeah.
Meditate every day on your death and your own flaws, and you'll be a happy.
there you go. There you go. And if for you that means praying, great. But for everybody who has an issue with prayer and religion and God and all that stuff, now that message can permeate their brain. They're not going to block it out because, religion, which is a stupid way to go about life. I agree. But that doesn't mean they don't do it. And that means a lot to me. So thank you. Thank you, Tucker. We also got Guam Tech. Thank you for the $2. And of course, a treat for Marty. No question, no comment, just pure love of the game. And guys, again, put your messages in the super chat. That's why they're there. But thank you so much. That is 3 out of 15 and 18 out of 50, guys. We're getting closer. Let's fucking do this. Thank you, sir.
I think is important.
Yeah.
Meditate every day on your death and your own flaws, and you'll be a happy person with better perspective. But I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why. So my views are so different. But anyway, the point is, I understand what you're saying.
Well, it's also that it's not even necessarily that you would have to, like, all these years later be convinced that he was right. It's just, I think after so many years of seeing how evil our government actually can be, that you go like, okay, I'm listening. All right, fine. I dismissed that out of hand, but now I'm more.
Or how about the only question that matters is whether or not something is true?
Yeah.
And another way to put it, a phrase that I've coined and made copyright is facts don't care about your feelings.
That's a good one.
You like that?
Someone should really run with that.
I like that.
That's a good.
You could get a long way. You could get like a special deal with Facebook on the basis of that. But
Savagery.
But I actually agree. I agree with that.
Right.
And I agree. I don't think you should hurt people's feelings on purpose, but I think.
Oh, okay. So let's go. Wow. 80% of you said no, you would not kill baby Hitler. This one always surprises me. Because yes, it is a utilitarian argument to say that, well, we know baby Hitler is going to kill all these people, but he is still a baby. But the fact that he's still a baby, we're still saving lives. I can see why you would not, like, if you were living in the 1900s or whatever, whatever the fuck. If you were living when he was in that time and you didn't know, and it was just a random baby, I completely understand. But explain to me why, knowing that baby Adolf Hitler is going to become the Adolf Hitler, why is that wrong? Because I don't think you would have an issue with killing adult Hitler, right? What? Okay, let's try this. Would you kill a grown, capitalize that, grown Hitler before he was in office? Let's get it there. Would you kill a grown Hitler? He's a grown man. He hasn't done anything yet. But you know who he is, who he's going to be, what he's going to do, all of that stuff. What about that? Buck said, I used to watch Ben regularly. When the whole Gaza thing took off, he really got, when the whole Gaza thing took off, he got real bloodthirsty. He's jumped off a deep end and failed to find mooring. Cannot abide this arc of his. Yeah, a lot of people are with you on that. Ty said, I heard my mama cry. I heard her pray the night Chicago. That's to you. Yeah. Shout out to all the people that we have lost. Respect to them all.
But I actually agree. I agree with that.
Right.
And I agree. I don't think you should hurt people's feelings on purpose, but I think the core question, the only one that matters, is something true. And I know that you share that, and that's why. And I hate to beat up on poor Douglas, who's like a sad character, but he had this line in here. Oh, this isn't. Sorry, I never go to my notes, but this is from a guy called Sam Harris.
I'm loosely familiar.
So Sam Harris.
I will put it out there that there was a very significant time in my life where Sam Harris was the most important person in terms of intellect and academia, in my personal opinion. Those days are long gone, but they did exist.
Harris, wow, he doesn't care for you at all, or it looks like me either, but whatever, I'll ignore the stuff about me. I'm not even exactly sure who Sam Harris is, but sad atheist guy. But he describes you as a pure misinformation artist who lies as freely as he breathes. And I just thought as I read this, I could say, Dave Smith, I don't know, whatever, but I feel like that's the opposite of the truth. I feel like maybe you lie under duress, but in general, you are like very focused on what you think is true.
Well, I mean,
yep. Sam fell off. I don't know if anybody ever has fallen off harder than Sam Harris has fallen off. I think that is the epitome of falling. Like who would be worse than that? And unfortunately, I think Hitch would have been in the Bill Maher camp. We have to remember that Hitch was older. Hitch was very liberal when it was cool to be liberal, but he was, he's very much of the Douglas Murray type of ilk. So I would hope that I would be wrong, that Christopher Hitchens wouldn't have been a Bill Maher, Douglas Murray type. But I mean, he wrote for Vanity Fair. It's not like he was, some underground dude. He was part of the elite as well. So I don't know. Just saying. 10 years ago, that would be about the time when Sam lost his mind. Douglas Murray question mark. What about him? I mean, so is Ethan Klein. Not to put them in the same category, but I'm just saying, like, that the identity politics there, it don't track. So I don't know, and I definitely could be wrong. We don't have the counterfactual. I don't know for sure, but I'm hesitant to say that, oh my God, we need Hitch, in the same way that I'm hesitant to say, oh my God, George Carlin would have been so amazing these days. These boomer era liberals who were at the cutting edge, we know that when people get to a certain level, then it just kind of, everything else kind of fades away, and they just think that they're amazing at everything. And some people are really good at a lot of things. Some people are good at staying in their lane. Very few people stay grounded and actually stay in their lane because of the fact that they know that that's their lane. But too many people just get to a certain status and then they think, oh yeah, I know everything about everything. And it's hard to look at the way that Christopher Hitchens, navigated the world and think that he wouldn't have that mentality. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, but in general, you are like very focused on what you think is true.
Well, I mean, again, I just feel like it's I benefit in a way from us having this conversation like after COVID and after kind of all of these insane things that, okay, so Sam Harris, what did I get wrong? Like, I don't think that if you're gonna
We are waiting, Sam. Yeah, again, same thing. What is his name? TJ Kirk. He used to be right on there, and then he just got really popular as being, the asshole. And then when there was real questions, for example, as Christians started to move away from trying, in the debate space, Christians moved away from trying to say God exists. The resurrection was real. The Bible is, instead of making those arguments, they started making arguments that Christianity is better for humanity than secular humanism, which it absolutely unquestionably is. But begs the question, is there something better for humanity than Christianity? And indeed, there is. Shout out to Indyville. Welcome to the party. Said I'm amazing at everything. At least that's what my mom says. Got a good mom. I won't say that shit. Welcome,
Sam Harris.
Party.
What did I get wrong? Like, I don't think a misinformation art, which I'll take that. I should make t-shirts about misinformation artists.
Sorry,
I'll take that.
Pure misinformation.
Pure misinformation.
Everything you say is a lie. It's like
pure misinformation artists, just like the pure blood. I will never miss an opportunity to shout out my purebloods.
Breathing to you.
Dude, I got called that throughout all of COVID, and I was right about everything I was saying. So keep calling me this. Okay, fine. Make an argument.
But
what if
who
I
is
said
Sam
that's
Harris?
All they're doing by attacking the people who are right but not experts is further convincing people like myself that we shouldn't trust the experts.
Harrison, why is he so mad at you?
Oh, Sam
I thought he
Harris
was a
is-
rationalist, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was.
He's the guy who defended the war in Iraq and torture and fell for the Russiagate bullshit, thought Trump was a Russian spy, fell for lockdowns and vaccine mandates and all this stuff. So,
And said that it doesn't matter. It wouldn't have mattered if Joe Biden had dead bodies of children in his basement. He would still vote for him because Trump is so bad. That's the guy I was following. Not anymore.
I'll put my misinformation track record up against Sam Harris's, whatever. I mean, I know he's got a meditation app or something like that, but
Did you see the
okay.
Tim Dillon thing the other day?
Dude, it's so great.
That was like, I texted him. I said, it was funny. Tim Dillon.
But okay, fair. But that is absolutely fair. But Tucker's then come out and said, "Oh, you know what? I was wrong about that." When's Sam gonna do that?
The brilliant comedian.
He's the best.
Thing about how Sam Harris is a meditation app. I didn't even know that. So by day he's a meditation guru, and by night he's encouraging like carpet bombing of children.
I mean, it's just too ridiculous. And all of these guys, it's sad in a way because you can't contradict yourself on what your entire purpose was for your entire career without some people noticing. And that's kind of what's going on.
Yep. Well, I said I believe them with COVID. I was just too lazy to get the vax. I was already around no one. If I had to interact with people, life would have been more questionable right now. Yeah, I mean, that propaganda campaign was very heavy. It was very, very heavy. But Boggs said it wasn't political for me. I just procrastinated my way through it, and it worked. I mean, technically, so did I. As I've told you guys, and when this all started, I was very much in the camp of, it's probably at some point going to become inconvenient for for us to have to walk around without the jab. And so, I'll just wait until that time comes and then I'll do it. But then Fauci came around and there was all these lies and all this bullshit. So I got scared. Let's do this really quick, guys. Oh, take you. If you guys are enjoying the show, the party rages on 24/7 over in our Discord. The link is pinned to the top of the chat and is absolutely free to join 24/7. We're in there hanging out, having a great time. And guys, it is absolutely free. However, if you are a member of this channel here on YouTube, you can scroll right below that video and hit that join button. Starts at $2.99. There's a few different tiers, but $2.99 will get you in. It gets you members only live streams here on YouTube, all that other good stuff. But it opens up the full Discord server. So we've got the free chat that is open to anyone. Anybody can join and talk. But as you can see, that is just one of our channels. There's a bunch of different channels here, including our Disciple chat for members only, our Word of the Day watch party, where we're talking about all this stuff. And of course, we have the voice channel here, where we are hanging out at this moment. Shout out to everybody in the Discord server. Say hello and tell them to come and join. There you go, guys. Simple as that. See you there. All right. And guys, don't forget that if you join the free chat tonight, you get a day pass to the after party and the entire Discord. So you get member access just for joining. So the link is pinned at the top of the chat. It is free to join and you will get a day pass. And if you like it, you can stay. If not, then you do what you like. But said it's okay to be scared. A normal response. I was too for a bit there. Yeah, I mean, there was a period where that was used as like an attack. Like, oh, you're just scared. Like, yes, I am scared of putting weird substances into my body that have not been tested. Oh no, I'm such a bitch. Like, yeah, that wasn't cool. TV said Tucker was wrong about that. The Iraq War. Did you ever get any of the money back that he earned? I mean, come on. What are we expecting here? Guantek said, it was always political for me, talking about COVID. I will never trust the government when it comes to health. They can kiss my pure blood ass and keep pushing their food pyramids and clot shots. That's what the fuck I'm talking about, baby. What the fuck I'm talking about. I was gonna say I was scared. It just so happened I feared tyranny more than I feared getting sick, and I definitely thought about both constantly.
Bingo.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And film said I have zero faith in the expert class now, as you should. Not that there is no expertise there, because there is. But unfortunately, the people who don't have it have abused the label of expert, and this is now rational. So you don't trust the class, the expert class. They may present something, and we need to look at it as its own thing. United said there was nothing making me get a shot that wasn't tested. There you go. I said I refuse the root beer float injection. I may be dumb, but I'm not stupid. There you go. Love it, guys. I love it. All right, diving back in.
Purpose was for your entire career without some people noticing. And
I like that. Box said I trust everyone in this chat more than I would trust the expert class at this point. I agree. And yeah, I mean, TV, I don't disagree with you, but what are we expecting? Why would you, like, that's not a thing. So to expect that he would go out of his way to do that, like, yeah, it would be amazing if he did that, but to not do that, that's not really a thing that we expect. He was, he was doing his job. He was wrong. He admitted he was wrong. It's not like he was pushing what he thought were lies. He was just caught up in the mainstream media bullshit. The liars in the government said, do it. That made me not trust it. Me too.
like purpose was for your entire career without some people noticing. And that's kind of what's going on with all these guys.
Why the emotion? So I notice it even now in our conversation. There's a lightness to the way you describe things.
I mean, he is a comedian.
You obviously have passionate views, but you don't seem emotionally overwrought. Douglas seemed emotionally overwrought. This guy, Harris, seems emotionally overwrought. They seem very emotional. What is that?
Well, I mean,
and remember, guys, anger is a secondary emotion. It usually hides fear or sadness.
I would say that kind of ironically, although not really actually ironic, and this kind of goes to, the conversation that you and Brett Weinstein were having the other day.
Great podcast, guys. You should definitely check that out. I don't think it's the most appropriate thing for this channel. Maybe a members only if you guys really want me to cover it. But Tucker was on Rogan talking about how he doesn't believe in evolution. So Brett Weinstein, the evolutionary biologist, came on to talk to him about it, and they had a good conversation. And so if you are somebody, whether you believe in evolution and you don't understand why Christians think that it's not true, or you want to get better at being able to articulate to religious people why evolution is not something that's really up for question, great thing to watch. I think it was the one directly previous to this, maybe two.
Actually ironic, and this kind of goes to the conversation that you and Brett Weinstein were having the other day. I really love Brett. I think he's great.
Yeah.
I'm on your side of that debate, but I think one of the fundamental flaws in atheism is that it doesn't really exist.
Yes.
So this is the part that we're going to skip. All that he's saying is atheism doesn't really exist, because no matter what you are, you're going to make a god out of something. So he's not saying that people like myself don't exist. He's just saying that nobody is against dogma, and let's just skip it. So Guantek said Sam meditates like a madman. Indeed, he does, but still allows emotion to cloud his decisions. I think he may have missed a very important part of why you should do meditation. Yep. And he said, I think anger can be somebody trying to hide insecurity in their positions. Men should all strive to be stoic. Oh yeah, shout out to Nick. You got to tell him about your stoic moment. That was very, very indeed stoic. I said, Dad got atrial fibrillation from the vaccine. Could have been any one of us. Could have been any one of us. Shout out to Equality and Deference because vagina over on Rumble. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Said liked and shared. Guys, you know how much that stuff helps the channel. It is free. It is easy. It takes just a second. And again, it doesn't even matter if you think people are going to click on the link that you share. Just by hitting the share button or taking the link and plaster it wherever. That tells YouTube, oh, people like this. Let's show it to more people. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And yeah, so Equality is saying no such thing as an atheist. LOL. Of course there is, because you can be dogmatic to the government, which is not a god, which is not the same thing as a religion. So yeah, that's his snappy way of saying it. In the same way that, he claims Darryl Cooper, he uses his hyperbolic joke that Winston Churchill was the main villain. That's kind of what Dave is doing. So we're gonna slip over that. Well said, Sam got trapped in his own mind. He needs to touch grass and talk to real people.
Bingo.
Well, and I mean, he is not only the perfect example of a downfall and fall from grace, but an example of somebody who gets to a certain level in their field and then broadens that to everything. So because he understands things about neuroscience that at the time in 2000, nobody had done before, and he was at the forefront of popularizing and generalizing those ideas, he thinks he knows everything about politics, and doesn't quite work that way. United said, still friends sticking themselves and their families, and now they're telling their kids not to talk about it and lie when asked.
Haram.
Why lie? Why lie if you're not doing anything wrong? Anger is an energy? What's an energy? I've never seen that word. Energy. Okay, it's a commune in Haiti. Was that a typo? What anger is? Yeah, I don't know what you're going for, but nothing worse than a smart. Yup. Yep. All right, I'm back in. Welcome to the party.
There's a difference between that and your entire foundation being built on hypocrisy, and that hypocrisy being shown. Look, I mean, you can't make this stuff up, right? Ben Shapiro built a career opposing identity politics as a proud Zionist.
Yeah.
Now you listen, feel however you feel about Zionism.
It's identity politics. Well, Zionism isn't identity. Well, the way Ben Shapiro talks about, I would bet $100 that she's watching right now too. And we know you're watching. We know you're scared to show your face, or your swastika, whatever you think. But oof. Oh yeah, and you know what? Since we're here, why not? Oh, that's not what I want to do. What did I want to do? I want to go to my videos and my posts. And so, I just wanted to do a little poll, and I actually messed it up. How do I get to it? There we go. I actually messed it up and was a little too broad with it. But I said, if you see someone's profile picture on social media is a swastika, would you think that person is more cool or cringe? 35 votes. 86% of people were like, oh, that's so gay. That's so cringe. And, obviously it is. So, yeah, just to let you guys know, in this community, if you think you're going to be cool by being extra racist or extra into the Nazis and stuff like that, you're free to do it. Free speech is free speech. But we're going to make fun of you because that's cringe and you're a fucking loser. Especially if you're a 40-year-old single mother who has children, and this is how you spend your days. Shameful and saddening. Oh, really, Box? I've got some stuff to show you in Discord, which I'm going to stick to my own rules and not let that leave the Discord. But I got some stuff to show you that I think might change your mind. Shout out to Steven. Welcome to the party. Yep, nothing new at all on that front, for sure. Quality said, if you just think of Sam Harris as a religious leader, then any crazy thing he has said is just a metaphor or poetry. I mean, he could certainly use that out, but that would be the peak of hypocrisy. I think I would have known. I think. Oh, so yeah, a lot of people were saying, yeah, I would assume it's a bot. I don't know. So what I should have said is, if there's somebody that you know that you're talking to, that you're in a discussion with, that is a reasonable discussion, then changes their profile picture to a swastika, which Am did in the Discord. And apparently added a swastika emoji and a Hitler emoji. Like, that's a direct reflection on me, that my server has Nazi imagery as emojis. Like, no. You could say, I like swastikas all you like in the server if you want. I don't care. But you're not going to tie me to your bullshit. Shout out to Indie Film. Is Indie Film also sticking up for the Nazi? All right, free speech can hurt my feelings. Well, I'll tell you that it's certainly not about my feelings. It's about the fact that, I am doing a thing here. So it's cute that you guys just get to all hang out and watch a show and fuck around in the chat and be part of the community. But this is my job. So it's not the same. But thank you. Yes, equality. That is precisely what happened. But guys, that is 3 out of 15 and 19 out of 50 on our swell goal. We are getting close. Shout out to K Kicks in the building. Welcome. Said all groups had good and bad ideas. Most of the medical advancements in the 1900s to the 1950s were usually all found in the most horrific ways imaginable by the government in the name of good. Very true. But yes, okay, true. Very true. Anyway, said if someone has a black square on their Facebook page, I would also feel it's cringe. Because it's woke. It's the same shit. Box, and I'm sometimes out of pocket in the chat too. I know it hurts. I tried to keep it clean. That's not what we're talking about. That's not at all what we're talking about. And you'll see when it's like, oh, this is a different level. We're not like fucking around and making edgy jokes. We're just being racist. There's a difference. There you go. Shout out. Nick said it actually pisses me off that Nazis screwed up a much more ancient symbol that had nothing to do with their bullshit. Very true, but here we are.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. And Equality said that's ever so slightly disrespectful to your server. Oh well. I tried to go no rules and treat y'all like adults, but you wanted to be spanked and treated like children. Like Marcus got a timeout yesterday. And hey, if you want me to treat you like your children, I can treat you like your children.
Politics. As a proud Zionist.
Yeah.
Now listen, feel however you feel about Zionism. It's identity politics. Like that is the definition of it. You could not find a better example of a politics built on an identity. And yet you're out here saying facts don't care about your feelings. What? Identity politics is wrong. And then while you're saying that, your number one priority is this manifestation of identity politics.
And remember, hey, the clip where he's like, the reason that I like America is because America backs Israel. That's not America first.
You can only keep that charade going for so long.
No, it's totally true.
Before someone sees through it.
There's something in people that the lowest part of people that instinctively accuses others of doing what they're doing. And I've never really, that's one thing I don't want to be as a guy who does that. But I remember Bill Cristo, who I worked for years and really liked and was grateful to. And he was a great boss in the 90s. And came out against me and called me a Nazi and all this stuff, like without calling me. By the way, I called him and asked him to lunch. He refused. He wouldn't go to lunch with me. End of our relationship. But one of the criticisms against me, I'll never forget it when I realized this phenomenon was real, is when he accused me of advocating, and I'm quoting, for an ethno-state. No,
I love the chuckle. He was like, ethno-state. Oh, Tucker. Yeah, Boss is saying, now that I am probing it, World War II was very compartmentalized for me still. I wasn't there to choose a side. I assume if I was in Germany, I would have been a Nazi too. And I think it's hard for people to realize how very possible that is. That's a big thing of Jordan Peterson, is understanding the monster that you can be in order to tame that monster. It's hard to tell. I think that I don't know. I mean, it takes seeing that and seeing how drastic and negatively ambitious that was to be like, oh, that can happen. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just it's crazy. Shout out to Balance Shays. Welcome to the party. Welcome. Said, isn't Zionism just being proud of their religion? No. So Zionism is the belief that Jews have a right to Israel as their homeland. Let's double check that. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. But it's not
Zionism.
A movement for originally the reestablished and now the development protection of a Jewish nation in what is now Israel. It was established as a political organization in 1897 and later was led by blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's about the Jewish people being able to have Israel as their religious homeland as dictated by God and so on. So yes, there may be an aspect of being proud of your religion as to why you would be a Zionist, but not the same thing. And so let's say that a lot of people on the left are pro Hamas, but even if they're not that far, but they think, I don't like what Israel is doing, I am anti-Zionist because they are using the fact that they are proud of their religion to do things that are really bad. So it's a little bit more complex than that. And it's identity politics. But welcome. Claudia said, Mr. Mustache ruined the name Adolf for several generations at least. Yeah, I don't see it coming back anytime soon. Most Germans didn't join the party. Many of them considered themselves as defending their homeland. Yeah, but I mean, he is, he is a lefty, so, Context said the worst part of politics today is that so many people are easily pulled into extremes because everything is just a reaction to a reaction. Almost like it was designed to be that way. Yep. But so at the end of the day, their religion is a death cult. Same with Islam, same with Christianity. Pride is a sin. Indeed. Grontex says centrism and balance should be the goal, but people like their teams and revenge. Indeed, you guys are on a point tonight. Nick said, I'm for good ideas. Unfortunately, government doesn't have those. But my entire life, the Republicans' ideals have largely been less bad than the Democrats, who were really bad. So I've voted Republican. Makes sense. That's pretty rational. TV, thank you so very, very much for sponsoring the stream tonight. I don't know if anybody's going to knock him out of there, but very, very much appreciated you. Have a good night. We also got our boy Unwanted Foe. Welcome to the party. Said Minority Report poll question. Yep. Choose your answer. So again, you guys are saying, so it doesn't have to do with the baby Hitler. What would stop you? I don't understand. What would stop you from knowing that's the Hitler that's going to be the Hitler? It's not a baby. It's a grown man. He just hasn't done the stuff yet. But you've traveled from the future, and you know that if you let that guy go, he's going to kill millions of people. Why would you not kill him? I do not understand that. Yep. United States politicians learned emotions equals money. Philip said, I will just say that Israel's do have a right to Jerusalem as a homeland. Which Israels are you talking about?
Accused me of advocating, and I'm quoting, for an ethno-state.
Oh, the laugh.
Now, I have a lot of flaws. They're all on display. I've never wanted an ethno-state. And it's like, wait, one of us is for an ethno-state. and it's not me. But you just said that, like, of all the possible criticisms.
Projection. More wokeness. I can't
It's just too
stop
unbelievable.
being
I mean,
a
it's like-
wokeness.
You just
Bill
like,
Crystal accusing me of wanting an ethnos take.
but you like just like you almost like you can't even respond. You just have to go like,
it's like I didn't
All
say
right.
anything. I was like, okay,
right, yeah.
you know, people can't hear themselves. I mean, you know, when people get old, they tell the same stories,
Mhm.
and you just, when you love them, you're indulgent. But I just hope that doesn't happen to me. I hope I don't lose all self-awareness to the point where I've got like lunch on my chin and like accuse other people of doing exactly what I'm doing.
Yes,
Exactly what I'm doing.
While you're going,
So Quality said, I don't like the idea of killing a child, nor killing someone who has yet to do something catastrophic. Why? That's based on the notion that you don't know that they are going to do this. In this case, you know for sure. For sure. You've used a time machine. You've come from 2025 and you've gone back to 1929. You know what's about to happen. I think a lot of Germans, a lot of Poles would be like, yo, what the fuck? Take that motherfucker out. Qualtech said, what would stop me is knowing that there's a very harsh but important lesson to be learned for humanity. Unfortunately, someone else would have done the same or worse one day. How do you know that? That's just a claim. You're just saying things. Wonderful. If we go back in time, anything we do will cause a butterfly effect. There's no 100% in anything. Okay, now that is a reasonable answer. That is a reasonable answer. I still think it's a dumb answer, but it's a reasonable answer.
And like accuse other people of doing exactly what I'm doing.
Yes,
Exactly what I'm doing.
while you're going, you have lunch on your chin. Like yeah, that's you don't want to be there.
I don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to be the guy with lunch on their chin saying, look, you look so stupid with that shit on your face. Don't be that guy.
And I think that there's like, look, obviously, like we're living through something, we're probably living through several things that are very profound, but one of the most profound things has been this revolution in information and the technology, and it's led to this like kind of mass decentralization of media.
Yes.
And where there's now like there's so many things and shows and different voices. I find people all the time who I've never heard of before. And I'm sure you've had this experience too. You'll find someone, you'll be like, oh, that guy's actually really smart. People should know about this guy.
Really smart.
How many followers?
We are gonna. I have something planned for this Sunday. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do a members only stream or what I'm gonna do yet. But I we'll just talk about how difficult it is to find smaller channels. And whether it's just for watching or people that I'm gonna debate or collab with or whatever. But I use ChatGPT and I got a good way to find a bunch of channels that we're gonna check out, see what's good with them, and maybe make some new friends. Let's shout out Bucks. This is not gonna count to the swole goal, but I did say member messages do get a treat for Morty. Said Sans Guy would not exist. This is our timeline. You don't know that. You don't know that. But worrying that would be the case is a reasonable thing. Vontex said, do you disagree that it was an important lesson to be learned or no in thinking that someone else would do it or something similar one day? No. We still had Stalin, we still had Mao, we still had Genghis Khan, we still had Alexander the Great, we still had all these people. The idea that somebody would want to take over the world was not a new idea with Hitler, so no. Then it said he spoke to the fears of the people from what they saw happening. Much like today and the woke movement, we live in Sodom. I hope not. I hope not.
I'm sure you've had this experience too. You'll find someone, you'll be like, oh, that guy's actually really smart. People should know about this guy.
Really smart.
How many followers? 7 million. Oh, he's got 7 million followers. Oh, he's huge. Like, I just found some guy who is bigger than anyone on cable news, and I didn't even know he existed, And so now it's just because of this dynamic, there aren't, as you know, the corporate media apparatus, like big newspapers and big cable news shows and things, was very controlled. Very controlled. The range of allowable opinion was very narrow. It's what my good friend and brilliant historian Tom Woods always called the 3x6 card of allowable opinion.
Exactly.
You get this little area of allowable opinion, and then that's where the conversation takes place.
If you're woke.
That's been shattered into a million pieces. And now there's
No, it hasn't.
voices from all over the place, and some good and some great and some bad and really bad.
And I completely disagree. It's just a much bigger card that you can twist the terms much more easily because of the semantic obfuscation. Get your shit at TheIndianJesus.com. Glomtech. So it was an important lesson. I do think it's an important lesson. I think we already learned that lesson throughout history many times, and I don't think that one instance of that is going to prevent any other instance of that. There are already people where it did happen, and they're like, "Yay, Hitler, great." So what lesson was learned on there? United said, blame the man 100% and miss the problem he was a response to. That's not at all what I said. But if you want to talk about the counterfactual of, okay, what would have happened? Well, then there would have had to have been somebody else who was as charismatic, as angry, as politically advantageous, and as popular as Hitler. And then in that case, then we would have dealt with that. But in no way is Hitler being a person helpful to humanity. No. Unless you wanted to, you can, I'll give you the butterfly effect that we don't know what else would have happened. Fine. Fair. But other than that, I absolutely did not say it's not an important lesson. I said we've learned that lesson many times, and learning the lesson through Hitler himself didn't stop people from wanting to be Hitler. Medicine dwelling on the what ifs of life or the what could have been will drive anyone to insanity. Very, very true. Nick said, after I found you, I've been recommended more smaller channels. I sub, even if I doubt I'll watch all the time. Hoping it helps. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And hey, if you find some people that would be good for a collab, let me know. I know people that have less than 10K subscribers are willing to, damn near do anything. United said, study pre-war Germany's sociological issues, and you'll soon realize Hitler was a symptom. I never said Hitler was not a symptom. You're putting words in my mouth. That's not what I said. I said that. You can make the argument that this is not a profound statement. Okay, agree. But this is all that's being expressed, in my opinion.
He says, and now there's voices from all over the place, and some good and some great and some bad and really bad.
If I could have had 100 subscribers before I had a video, I would have felt so cool, but that did not happen. Shout out to Lark Bark. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the party. You found the right place. If you are a fan of Dave Smith, welcome. Lumtek said, bringing up Stalin and Mao kind of proves my point. It seems inherent in leaders and took a Hitler to help us understand that someone could do it so effectively instead of through an iron fist. Just an opinion. Okay. I mean, fair. I disagree with that opinion, but fair enough. Diving back in.
And now there's voices from all over the place, and some good and some great and some bad and really bad. But it's just much harder for people to, that control existed so that you don't get exposed. Exactly. So that you could go like, look, even the right winger, John McCain, agrees. Or even the far left activist, Nancy Pelosi. I mean, it's like, dude, I have to hear
or AOC.
Dude, Sean Hannity goes, the far left, Nancy Pelosi. It's like, how many leftists have you actually talked to in your life? How many leftists have you ever read? You think Nancy Pelosi is a far leftist? Like, really?
That doesn't mean that we don't have our issues with Nancy Pelosi. Just leftism isn't quite the top of priority.
Living on her vineyard in Napa?
Yes. Yeah, okay. All these different, these different tools of corporations are left and right. But so that's over now. And now I think it's much tougher to keep this charade going.
Yeah. So Nick said, unfortunately, most dictators rise to the cheers of a crowd. So what's being put forth is that if we didn't have Hitler, then we would have a bunch more Hitlers because we needed Hitler to show that we don't want Hitler. When I would argue that we already knew we didn't want Hitler. There were, as United is bringing up the circumstances in Germany at the time, there may have been somebody else, but for all we know, the Hitler 2.0, the person who rose to power, would be a much easier enemy to defeat. Like Mark said, Nancy Pelosi is a corrupt ghoul. Hey, I'll drink to that. I'll drink to that. Dustin would have boarded Hitler. There you go. There you go. Now somebody's on my team. Boss, I have a cannabis growing channel and a hiking channel. I think they help me a bit, but mostly just dank memes in the YouTube chat. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to have to put more memes on my thing then. I'm like, damn, I don't even think about it. It might be more error. I don't know what this is. Oh, yeah. I know what you're saying, but I don't get the reference. Not enough. Never went back.
Hey, but so that's over now. And now I think it's much tougher to keep this charade going. And
it seems to be collapsing so fast.
Yes. And it's not, again, you could be honest about it and kind of maintain some of your respect. But the truth is that, like, look, even when
you could, but then how would you get all the far right or far left losers who are willing to shell out money after money after money, dollar after dollar after dollar, because you're saying the edgy shit that nobody else is cool enough to say?
they'll say these things like if you accuse Ben Shapiro of having dual loyalty, they go, "Oh, that's an anti-Semitic trope. That means you hate the Jews."
But he said it.
But then he'll sit there in his own words and say, I forget his exact quote, but it was something like, "My favorite thing about the United States of America is that it protects Israel." And so you're already saying you have loyalty to both of these countries. In fact, I'm not so sure about one of the loyalties, but I'm very sure about the other one. And that is not, I'm sorry, that's not a statement against Jewish people. I'm Jewish. I love Jewish people. You know, it's like I get called a self-hating Jew on Twitter or whatever. It could not be further from the truth. I actually really love Jewish people. There's many things about Jewish culture that have, had a huge impact on me, made me the person I am, made me a better person for their impact on me. But this is a foreign government. Like, I'm sorry. We're allowed to talk about that. If not
unless you've been.
I saw Glenn Beck the other day had Douglas Murray on, and Glenn Beck wasn't like mean to me personally, but which I appreciated. But he was just going. I mean, it was just so ridiculous. But it's like, we're sitting here, we're having a conversation about a foreign government. You started crying on your show talking about this foreign government. That's fucking weird. That's weird. We should not be doing that. What the hell is going on here? Like, I don't even think you should cry about our own government, but if you're going to cry about one, it should be ours.
And no one would even
that's a fair rule.
Think to cry about it.
Right. I mean, like, come on. Like, let's have a real conversation about this. And if you don't, especially, and by the way, this is not my primary goal. My primary goal is to tell the truth and to advocate for what's good for our country. But if you're concerned about like the young men getting a little bit too radical and being too obsessed with the Jews or too against the Jews, which I
definitely worried about that.
You think is a legit concern.
It definitely is.
That's not good for you. And it's not good for you. It's not good for the conflict. It's not good for the country. I just don't think any of racial collectivism always leads to bad places.
I totally agree.
You don't want to embrace that stuff. But if you're concerned about that, well, then the first thing you have to do is tell the truth. You can't keep lying to people, and you can't keep sitting here and going like, "Oh, no, the neoconservative." You can't say neoconservative, right? Wasn't that Mark Levin? Didn't he just say if it's the neoconservative?
Mark Levin, who I also know. I mean, I've been in right wing world my whole life. I know everybody. I work with Mark. Always gotten along with Mark. Always been nice to me. But yeah, he just accused the Trump administration, of anti-Semitism.
What?
If anything, the Trump administration is too cozy with Israel. Too cozy with Israel. Guys, we are past the 2-hour mark. So if you would like to keep the party raging, you know how to do it.
For calling someone a neocon. What he did was he accused Steve Witkoff of anti-Semitism.
Right.
And I just want to say, I think Steve Witkoff is, if there's anyone who is, has the hand of God on him, it seems to me, I sort of overstated, but I feel that way. It's Witkoff, who's like a thoroughly decent man, and who was running around the world trying to bring peace. And also, by the way, nations,
who single-handedly saved 20 Jewish hostages.
Well, exactly.
I mean, I don't know if they were all Jewish. I think most of them were. I think almost all of them were. But I think they got 20 hostages released in the phase 1 of the ceasefire that he worked out. Then Israel violated the ceasefire, and so they didn't get the other hostages back, although thankfully the American was just released. But this guy, Witkoff, has actually done more to help those hostages.
So here's what...
And Lockberg, that's why I personally... have not taken some huge principled stance on one side or the other, because that seems to be what is going on over there. And you can make arguments that this side is worse than that side and that side is worse than this side. But it seems like two people who are not looking to solve a conflict, but to just get at each other. And, they put it in writing. Like that their stated goal, to get rid of the people, not solve the conflict. Or rather, they see that, as the solution. And so I'm with you. It's just vile, and I'm not about it. Not about it.
Just released. But this guy, Witkoff, has actually done more to help those hostages.
So here's what here's what he said. I actually wrote this down because I was really bothered by it. This is Levin on Twitter, Mark Levin, who works at Fox, which is like basically seems to have turned its programming over to advocating for a war with Iran.
I don't know if you know this, Tucker, but that's always what they've been about, and you were a direct part of that for a decent amount of time.
Neocon is a pejorative for Jew. Unbelievable. And this is in response to Witkoff saying, quote, the neocon element believes that war is the only way to solve things.
Hey, shout out to Isaac. Welcome to the party. So this might be the actual Jesus. Have you ever seen us in the same room? I'm just saying. Welcome to the party. Who is Steve Witkoff? I've heard the name, but I can't pull a face or anything. Yep, very true. Welcome to the party, Isaac.
Response to Witkoff saying, quote, the neocon element believes that war is the only way to solve things. So you have Mark Levin calling Steve Witkoff an anti-Semite.
Right. And again,
we've reached peak crate. I mean, I think Witkoff is Jewish, right?
Again, but it's I don't even know. But it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't really matter.
Exactly. It shouldn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter.
He's American and he's on the side of peace, and so I'm for that guy. But
and here we go in Discord in the free chat. Marcus said, let's say hypothetically there was a certain group of people that controlled the narrative. Let's say hypothetically they used other impulsive groups of people as bioweapons. I wonder who he's talking about.
The crazy thing. So
I mean, I'm not necessarily even disagreeing with the fact that is happening, but can you talk about anything else ever? This isn't a response to anything. He just randomly felt like he needed to point out
I also at one point in the debate with Douglas Murray, where I said something about the neoconservatives, and he went, the N-word, making a play on the N-word or whatever. And it's interesting. I mean, Douglas Murray wrote the book called Neoconservatism, Why We Need It. It was his book. And so what happened was,
well, then he must be anti-Semitic, right?
For people who don't know a lot about this, this was their term. The neoconservative was not a pejorative term until the neoconservatives got control of our foreign policy and ruined everything.
Yeah.
And then it became a term that we'll call every war hawk. We'll be like, another neocon. Now, a lot of times we will use the term when, strictly speaking, this person may not have been a self-identified neoconservative. It's just become a pejorative for someone trying to get us in a stupid war. But the neoconservatives themselves, the original group, this was their name.
Oh, I know.
For themselves.
I was there.
And you were there. You worked alongside them.
I worked for that. I worked for Bill Kristol for 5.5 years. I was a neocon.
Yes, it wasn't and they had,
and so that's why it's yes, you were a neocon, but you've learned your ways. I was never Trumper, and I've learned my ways. Isaac said, Mark Levin equals 60%. I wrote a book, 30% AM advertising, and 10%. Here's my take on an issue everyone else is covering at length. So sounds like somebody I don't really need to pay too much close attention to. Is that basically what I'm getting here? Box said, Witkoff is single-handedly stopping wars and starting a new one right now. Mostly stopping. He said no to Israel. He got the plane for Trump. All right, so I should know a little bit more about this motherfucker. All right. I've got some homework to do.
I worked for that. I worked for Bill Kristol for 5.5 years. I was a neocon.
Yes, it wasn't and they had no
Episcopalian neocon.
But look, they had no problem using the term until everybody started to hate them. And then they went, you can't call us this. But it's like, no, you guys, this was your own term that you used for yourself. You can read their own documents in the Project for a New American Century. You read the Clean Break memo. They laid out what they wanted their foreign policy to be. I mean, literally, right? Wasn't it, oh God, I can't remember whose quote it was. I know that a bunch of them loved sharing it. But what is it? That every 10 years, we got to throw a small, puny little country up against the wall and show them who's boss. This was their foreign policy. We need multiple theaters of war in the Middle East in order to ensure the new century is an American century.
Nah, I'm good. No, thank you. No, thank you. Nope, new wars. Thank you very much. Lark said, exactly. The neocons are the reasons for the endless wars. And that's why I came from a more liberal perspective, where I wasn't really, those of you who've been here, you know the story, but I was never really into politics specifically, but I did have opinions on the issues. And it wasn't until Trump came around that I was like, oh, I guess maybe, it's a big deal. I should start paying attention to this stuff. But unfortunately, I didn't understand that, I'm going to watch MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News to get all the information was not a good way to approach politics. And so I was never Trumper. I thought that he was going to be the end of the world and that I was a Bernie bro. But then when they slighted Bernie, I was just like, well, we have no other choice. What can we do? What can we do but hope that Hillary Clinton is going to save us? So, yeah, we've all had some bad ideas, but as long as you're on top of it and figure shit out, then I'm not okay, but it is what it is. Box to the right used to be more for wars, but our friends spent 20 years in the sandbox and got over it. Pretty much. I said, I can't think like a psychopath. I don't relate. Fair. I'll take it.
Multiple theaters of war in the Middle East in order to ensure the new century is an American century.
So immoral and disgusting.
Yes. And also that, and look, as anybody can read, I think we talked about this last time I was on, but anybody can read for themselves the clean break memo. It was written by Richard Pearl and David Wormser to Benjamin Netanyahu. That was like, look, here is our plan. And the break was from the peace process. The break was from Oslo. And they go, look, here's the plan. You know how Yitzhak Rabin and all these liberal Jews are saying we have to make peace with the Palestinians so that we can then make peace with the broader Arab world? Well, no, we got a new plan. We're going to break with all of that. We're not doing this land swap thing. We're not giving the Palestinians a state. What we'll do is we'll have America overthrow all of these other governments. That way you never have to make peace with the Palestinians.
Sounds great. If you're a neocon.
And you can just enjoy domination over the region. And from my reading of it, it does seem to me that a lot of them believed it. I think a lot of them hubris and, we overthrow Saddam Hussein. Democracy will sweep the region. Then we'll overthrow Gaddafi. Then we'll overthrow the mullahs in Iran. And then the region will be way better. Except every time they actually did it, it resulted in nothing but disaster, which really could have been very easily predicted and was predicted by wiser people than the neocons. But
so Box is saying 1 state, 2 states, not an easy question. I agree, but it seems pretty easy as an answer that 2 states is not viable. They're on both sides. They're not willing to be like, okay, all right. You take there and I'll take here and let's just stop the fighting. They don't want that. They want the entire thing from the river to the sea. That's what they want. And they want us to fund it.
Oh, hell!
Any film. So to be fair, it does not look like you can make peace with Palestinians who want all Jews dead.
Bingo!
Exactly. Folks, I would prefer 2 states in one country, but the religion is killing it.
Bingo!
That's what dogma does.
Been very easily predicted and was predicted by wiser people than the neocons. But all these years later, you either have to apologize for your role in this catastrophe or defend your role in this catastrophe and talk
Tucker's apologized. Fair enough.
about how you still really believe it was the right thing to do. But you can't sit here and say you're not an expert and you're a Jew hater if you say the word neoconservative. That's not an appropriate response.
But if Mark Levin is calling the Trump administration anti-Semitic, Steve Witkoff, we're at the end of something and the beginning of something new. I mean,
that's right.
Right? I mean, that's so... I almost called Mark when I saw that because I know him, but I really love Steve Witkoff and I think his decency, I don't agree with him on everything at all, but his decency is just palpable. I mean, it just comes through. His concern for people, his reasonableness is just so obvious.
All right, so I'm going to jump ahead here. It doesn't look like we're going to be streaming for too much longer, so let's get to the heart of it. The woke right
resorted to it was like you were debating an anti-racist.
Wait, this looks like he's cooking. Let's let him cook.
Did he
money
throw the
Tucker.
fight up purpose?
I don't know. I wish I had that. I'm doing okay. I don't have money like that. I don't have buy off Douglas Murray money. I think he's
I
getting.
don't think it would take too much.
Well, it's not just, one of the things that was interesting is that it's not just, so there was the debate, there was the reaction to the debate, but then what was really interesting is that then there was the reaction to, just because it became such a big thing, it ended up coming up on Rogan's podcast with other guests like
Yes.
later on. And they're all just kind of making fun of Douglas and how ridiculous he was, because he was ridiculous. And then it's almost like you see the realization set in with those people that, oh shit, Joe was what essentially happened here, right? And this is, I think, for almost everyone to see, is that I've been debating all these guys on Israel Palestine, and I've been beating all these guys in these debates. And I'm not saying I'm beating, I'm just saying like the reaction, the Oxford style voting is that I win dominantly. And then Douglas Murray was almost brought in as the king boss.
Dad's here.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is Ben Shapiro's not going to do it. He's not going to come debate me. And so who is it? Who's the best guy to come to? Well, here's Douglas Murray, the guy who's just known for his prose and his rhetoric and how good he is at debating.
Yikes. And I will not take the blasphemy arguments. I have never once claimed to be a Christ or a Messiah or anything. I'm just like the Mexican guy named Jesus. I just speak English, baby.
I mean, this is what he's known for. And then he came in and couldn't land a blow. He couldn't take on one argument. He had to just be resorted to like, it was like you were debating an anti-racist college professor on
which is, we would typically describe that person as, what's the word? Woke.
Just going to tell you the whole time that I'm not even allowed to have this opinion.
Yeah,
yes,
no, totally.
It was just that. And so then what do you think the response to that was? Here you have Joe Rogan, who has got some of these guys on his show who clearly are making a case where he goes, all right, yeah, this is a pretty good argument that this guy's making. And he brought, as much as Douglas was complaining in his op-eds after the fact that it's so unfair that I couldn't just go on alone. I had to go on with this guy who doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like, yeah, but this was your opportunity, man.
You should be overjoyed to not just be sitting there and spilling your own bullshit as an expert, but able to articulate that while somebody else is of the opposite opinion and shut them down. But yet again, we come back to the fact that you were not able to do that. You were unable, maybe unwilling, but either way, that was your opportunity and you did not do it.
You could have blown me out of the water and then had Rogan being like, shit. Maybe I should have more experts on. Like maybe I've got this comedian guy who I think's making really good points, but then this guy just came in and like totally took him on, but he was unwilling or unable to do that.
Yes. If that was your goal, then that should have been your strategy. If your goal is to say it's not about who knows more, it's about who has the credentials, then let me show that because somebody is just interesting, how dare you, Joe Rogan, talk to somebody because they're interesting, even if they're not an expert. But let's put that aside. The reason I have, as Douglas Murray, I have such an issue with this is because of the misinformation. And it's so bad. So I can list this, that, and that. But you didn't do it. You didn't do it.
And so that was the next freak out, is they realized that like, oh, Joe just got pushed more in my direction, as his whole audience did.
Yep. Let's get this. Glum text. It sounds like when Crowder got mad that Rogan looked up the facts about what he was saying on the show one time. Why do so many conservatives get mad about being challenged? Sounds familiar. Ty's heading out. Thank you so very, very much for stopping by. You have a good one. Guys, we are coming up close. Let's keep this party raging, guys. Morty is hungry. Let's go. We got this.
That like, oh, Joe just got pushed.
I need to do some push-ups. It's been a long time. Let's watch me struggle, guys. Let's do it.
More in my direction, as his whole audience did.
I wonder, though, if there's not something a little more sinister underneath it. You keep...
By who? Who the fuck would pay for that? Who would pay for that?
Frank, this is a debate, but it wasn't. It was not a debate. It was Douglas trying to scold Joe into never having you or anyone like you on his show again.
Like woke scold?
It was basically he was playing the heavy.
Yeah,
a little bit. It was kind of threatening. I thought,
heavy.
like,
what?
you don't really know because you were a sitcom actor / comedian / bow hunter that actually you're playing with some pretty serious shit, Joe Rogan. And we've been watching, and maybe you should stop having these people on.
Yeah,
I mean, that was definitely
it.
the vibe I got from it.
Oh, no question. It was, they even used the word when he was talking to Barry Weiss, that embodiment of expertise that is Barry Weiss. They were talking, and he used the word platforming, that Joe shouldn't be platforming all of these people. It's like, okay, so you're look, I'm saying
This is straight up cancel culture. It is not even woke right. It's not like a right version, the right-wing version of cancel culture. It is just cancel culture. I don't like what you're saying. Therefore, you shouldn't be allowed to talk. That is maybe at the core of wokeness more than anything else. Maybe the identity politics, but you should not be able to talk because I don't like what you're saying is at the core of the woke mentality. A shout out to Indy Bam. The $2 say, give Morty a treat under the table. Well, he's not under the table. What? How am I supposed to do that? Here, I don't know what the fuck he means, but you get a treat either way. There we go. Thank you, sir. And of course, that means the party rage is on. Let's go. Let's keep raging, guys. I'm not done. I've got a lot to say. Let's keep it raging. Thank you, sir.
platforming, that Joe shouldn't be platforming all of these people. It's like, okay, so you look, I'm saying
This is just Animal Farm.
Right.
We're at the end of Animal Farm where the pigs and the people are indistinguishable. Like, if you're a conservative using the word platform as a verb,
Then you're woke.
how long before you call me a white supremacist, actually?
which
I mean, he basically did. Luckbark said, shame on Douglas Murray. What a coward and total degenerate, two-faced, lying, charlatan scumbag. Tell us how you really feel. Dilly to that. All right. Were they though? Because they definitely weren't. That's not even... I'll take this as sarcasm.
Platform as a verb?
Do I ever?
Like, how long before you call me a white supremacist, actually? at
which
this point?
essentially,
Now.
I guess white supremacist isn't the term, but anti-Semite is the term that they're going with. It's the exact same playbook.
And then they have the balls to whip around and call you woke, right?
Yes, that's right. I'm like, right.
It's Bill Crystal calling me calling for an ethno state.
Yes, it's all the same thing, right? You're sitting here. We have in this country right now, we have
Same authors, 1984, in case you didn't know.
speech laws being passed, in the name of students feeling not safe on college campuses. And you get the accusation of bigotry used to shut down real dissent and real conversations. And then they're going to turn around and say the other side is woke.
Projection. Dilly to the woke. Whether you're left or right, if you're woke, we're going to call you woke. I don't fucking care if you voted my way. I don't fucking care if you hate the same shit that I hate. If you hate people for their identity politics, if you're going to shut people down because you can't deal with what their ideas are, then you're a fucking loser and you ain't on my team.
So that's when I stopped laughing. That is
That would be a fantastic life.
shocking to me. And the fact that the Congress had scheduled, it was thanks to Marjorie Taylor Greene, it was pulled off the schedule, but God bless her. But
what a weird world we're in.
It really
where
is.
She's the savior. Marjorie Taylor Greene is who. That's where we're
You
at.
know why? Because Marjorie is totally sincere.
Yeah.
She's actually not a liar. She's sincere. That's why they hate her. But there was a vote scheduled on a bill that would have made it a felony for Americans to participate in a boycott of Israel. And as someone who has zero interest in participating in any kind of boycott, much less against Israel, I'm just not interested. I'm happy, whatever, buy the hummus and use the software. I don't care. But I probably would have engaged in one just to make the point that I'm a free man in a free country. And we can't, how could you even consider voting on something like that?
And isn't the most
Okay, I know we already did this poll, but I'm trying to see if this is going to have a different result. So, do you understand what is meant by the term woke right? Yes or no? Replay gang, let me know in the comments.
outrageous part of it, or at least
And if you really love me, let me know in the comments after the stream. Either way, it helps just as much as liking, sharing, and all that other stuff. Leave comments after the stream.
to me, I mean, I guess it's all outrageous, but the crazy thing is that we've seen this in the last decade, where all like Hollywood types and like big musicians would boycott red states. Like if they tried to pass like a 6-week heartbeat bill for abortion,
or the bathroom
boycott
bill.
that. Yeah, boycott. So you could boycott states in our own country, but you can't boycott a foreign country. And it's like the double standard there. Again, this is why I said the thing about like,
you know, like the woke do.
Relativism. Because in the same way that you know, the
Fox says, I now understand it. When you first brought this up, I did not. I still don't like it as a term. Neither do I. It's not apt. It absolutely is apt, but I agree that it's not a good term. But I don't have control over what terms, arise. You know, me and Guamtech, we really tried to get the meme right or the trans right as the term, but we don't have control over that. What it is how people use it. Language is how people use it. Now, we talk all the time about semantic obfuscation, where it's a purposeful twisting of words or their usage. But the reason that people have started to talk about the woke right, to say it's not apt, if you understand it, then it is apt. As I said, I gave up on caring about terms. It always ends up a dumb word game to distract from what's happening. I agree, but if they are winning that game, then what opportunity do you have to have any of your ideas taken seriously? Because they can call it racist, they can call it anti-Semitic, they can call it bigoted, they can call it this, they can call it that. And so understanding their game is caring about terms and is turning everything into a dumb word game. So when you understand that, then you can combat them. Fox said, woke means to be aware of injustice to me now and forever. Oh, so I guess, you'll have no problem with calling a bundle of sticks, or do words evolve and take on their meaning? What does literally mean in the dictionary? Does it mean figuratively, or does it mean literally, or does it mean both? And why? There was a time when literally was the opposite of figuratively. Then we had a bunch of people like, this is literally the worst day of my life. And because people started using it that way organically, not because somebody told them to, but organically, people started to do that. You can now look up in the dictionary, literally means figuratively. That is how language works. And that's a big reason why, the Alex O'Connor thing with, be agnostic versus atheist and not knowing what you're talking about. That's just a state of fact. But even before I heard that and realized, okay, for most conversation, I am agnostic because I don't know what the fuck you're talking about when you say God. But even before that, the notion of wanting to identify as an atheist, I kind of wanted to put it to the side because it is the same type of thing as the word feminism. If you say you're a feminist and you mean, no, I just want like the laws to be equally applied, that's not what people understand by the word feminism. So you can stick to old definitions, but that's not how language works, and you are wrong. You're allowed to be wrong, but indeed, you are wrong. The neither version of woke scold, nothing has clicked so far. I mean, no, but that's the point. Woke scold works because that which is woke can go in either direction. So we don't need a different version of that because it is woke. It is scolding based on wokeness. So it is woke scold. There's not a different version of it because of the fact that it's the same thing. That's why we're using the same word. It's the same thing. That's precisely why. Okay, so why won't you say it? Why won't you just say it freely? Because it has a different meaning now, right? Because of the way people use it. It's not about Christianity, though. It's not. It's about wokeness. That's what I'm trying to nail into your head. No, it's not about religion. What about deplatforming Dave Smith has to do with religion? It's not. It's wokeness. It's cancel culture and wokeness. It is not any different just because the guy has different opinions. It is wokeness. Isaac said, agreed, but it's frustrating to the German mind on language. Well, I don't know what to tell you there, but it is what it is. Any film said the fact that the definition for literally was changed in Webster's does not mean that it's actually been changed and is a symptom of wokeness. You can make that argument. Sure, you can make that argument. But if I say this is literally the best cup of thing that I drink, if somebody wants to sponsor me, I will show your brand. But if I say this is literally the best cup of whatever that I've ever drank, are you really going to think that I am saying that, you know what, I've thought about everything I've ever drank and this is better? Or are you going to know that I'm being facetious and I mean figuratively? So you and Box, see, at least Box will say, okay, I'll sit in my wrongness. You are wrong. That literally does not mean figuratively. That has changed. Language is a social construct. So it is based on how people use it. 100%. End of story. There is no argument there. You can argue that the change is a symptom of wokeness, but okay, whether it's a symptom of wokeness or not, the definition is different.
And this is why I said the thing about like relativism, because in the same way that that people will talk about constantly, and the same people who will harp on anti-Semitism on Twitter, and like I'm not denying something's going on there clearly.
Big time.
Like there's a real thing happening here.
Big time.
And it's not, as I've said, and again, this isn't necessarily the most important aspect to it, but personally, one of the things that annoys me about that is like, it's not helping my argument. Like it's an albatross around my neck. And it's
hey, we got another atheist or agnostic or non-believer, whatever the fuck you want to call it. Shout out. Dilly. Amanda said language is always evolving. Think about how English sounded in medieval times. Look at some Shakespeare and tell me that language does not evolve. You'd be wrong. Nick said, besides that, I don't think there's anything we'd call God, but I don't know. Well, it's actually, all right, it's a little side quest. Short side quest. I'm rewatching Game of Thrones, and there is a scene where, if you know, then you'll know where Arya is kind of like on her journey, and she's with the Hound, and they find like the Brotherhood or whatever that's part of the light god, and the Hound, and then they leave. So it's just the Hound and it's Arya, and they're talking about what is God. So no spoilers here. That if you haven't seen it, then it doesn't matter. But he so the Hound, the big knight, is talking about this, you're one true God and the light of this and that and that and that, and then one true God. And then Arya, the little girl, says, I only know one true God, and that is death. And I was like, God damn. So obviously I don't believe in a theistic God. But if you were to define God as death, that seems to be the best interpretation of what is trying to be explained. And I'm not saying that it's a good thing, but if we were to say a God exists and that God is death, its will be followed. It is all powerful. You cannot escape it. I mean, that's a lot better than in terms of logically than anything that I've heard before. But little side quest. Let's welcome our boy Matthew King. Welcome to the party. So is there a way to take back the language? That is the right question, sir. They seem to have turned slang into the standard speech. I'm old and I don't wanna. Well, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The answer to your original question is yes, absolutely we can take back the language. But the way to do that is to engage in the conversations and use our own language. And so calling people on the right who engage in wokeness woke is a way to take back the language. Saying, no, woke is on the left, and these people, we have to figure out, lefties, what do we call these people? And they're going to say, MAGA. And we're going to be like, well, I don't have a better term, but no. If you want to be in that position, by all means. But I'm ready with my rhetoric about wokeness. Yeah, man, I'm saying languages evolve. Think about medieval times versus English today, or even English from 20 and 30 years ago. We didn't have the technology. We used computer and technology slang in a lot of our language. LOL. LOL. Remember the episode of The Office where Michael and Holly are talking? Man, that was so boss, man. Language is constantly evolving. Changing and owning the language is a way to control people. And so if they are doing that, then we also have to own the language. It is a battle. That is the battle. That is the 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional, whatever the fuck that people are talking about. It's not going to be a hot war with two groups of people standing across from each other on a field with guns pointed at each other. It is this. That is the war. That is what you are engaged in right now, whether you like it or not. So you can not like it and just pretend that it's not happening. Or you can not like it and acknowledge that it is happening and do something about it. And if you don't want to do something about it, pay me. I will dedicate my life to this. I already have.
It's not helping my argument. Like it's not. It's an albatross around my neck, and it's the reason why every goddamn debate that I'm in, the first thing they're going to bring up is, well, look at all these people on Twitter who are saying all this stuff. So I wish those people would knock it off. But you also, okay, we don't need two standards here. One standard will do just fine. Let's have one standard and apply this across the board.
Don't be woke. That's the standard. Wokeness is bad. That's a standard. Don't be woke. Works for me. Anybody have an issue with that?
Because the amount of anti-Muslim bigotry, anti-Palestinian bigotry, dehumanizing of the entire Palestinian
Sam
people.
Harris is engaged in for 20 years.
Yeah, that's right. And then they're going to turn around.
But not Muslims specifically, but Islamists. They are bad people.
And be like, oh my God, there's all this dehumanizing bigotry out there. It's like, yeah, none of that is good. Like, none of that is good. It's not good for you. It's not good for the conversation. It's just bad. You don't want to dehumanize an entire group of people
human
ever.
Beings like human beings.
Yes, and that should be fairly obvious. But also, I will say that, Donald Trump, who I voted for and supported in this last election, and I think.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. I got to be the libertarian and find a reason to talk shit about Trump. All right, we'll get into it. Like I said, I guess it's a blessing. We can argue on language here and by and large, while other areas, is there a pipe bomb in there is the level. And that's the goal here, guys. That's the goal. And, we can definitely talk about all this stuff here online and on YouTube and all that stuff. But you guys have seen how censorious they are. And so while, it's definitely fun to hang out and talk about this stuff, what the real way to, you want to ask about how to take this back. You want to ask about how to do this. The real way is to join up with the community. It is absolutely free to join the Discord, guys. It is free to join. You can get full access without ever paying a dime. My goal is to build a community of people, regardless of what they believe, are not woke, are not dogmatic, and are willing to discuss things with people they disagree with, so that when we go out in the world, we as a group are not some single-minded ideological group. We are a group of people who have a mentality, a way to live. A way to live. And that may include, if you are a religious person, that may include some aspects of religion, but doesn't necessitate it. If you are liberal, then it might have some aspects of liberal tendencies that's not woke. And if you, whatever it is, exactly as Isaac's saying, if this is what you're delighted by, if this is what you would like the world to be, they're in the right place. Hit the fucking link. It is free to join, and you get the day pass for the after party and everything else. Come and check it out, guys. I really think that we are building something important. And as I've said before, we are way closer to the beginning than we are to the end. So you won't want to see it.
That, Donald Trump, who I voted for and supported in this last election, I think has done some really good things in his first 100 days or so, and some not so good things. But, he would turn in the debate and call Joe Biden a Palestinian. He said this about Chuck Schumer too. He's basically a Palestinian. You're like, whoa. And for all the people who have been screaming bigotry for the last decade, no one ever thought to be like, hey, that's not like an insult.
I know.
It's not an insult to call someone a Palestinian. I've met lots of Palestinians who are really great people. There's nothing wrong with them. And again,
you would say that. You would say that because all the Jews are fill in the blank.
if a presidential candidate ever like stood up in the debate and went, "Oh, this guy's a real Jew," we'd all be like, "Whoa, what the hell is that?"
I know.
You don't get to say that in a political debate.
I know.
And so there's a ton of this. You have Nikki Haley going over and signing bombs.
Hard to overstate how much I hate that, by the way.
Yeah.
Me too. And so we have our second poll asking about what does the woke right mean, and 72% of you said yes. Well, can I even find the other one? Nope, that's not what I'm doing. Where are we? No, it doesn't go back that far. God damn it. So I can't see it. Yeah, I can't see it. But I will look at the replay. I don't want to get the exact numbers. I should have run down. But either way, we doing work here. We doing work. If at the very least, all you've gained from this stream is, oh, that's what people mean when they say the woke right. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. I think it said signing bombs. Okay. Point has to come back to view. Point has to come out. I don't know exactly what that means, but yeah, I'm not with that either. Nikki Haley is indeed a lunatic. Yep. To Russia with love. Yikes.
Nikki Haley going over and signing bombs.
Hard to overstate how much I hate that, by the way.
Yeah. Well, right. And I mean,
there are a lot of unreasonable Palestinians, of course. There are also some wonderful, a lot of Christian Palestinians, a lot of wonderful Muslim Palestinians. So I hate that.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible on any side. You don't dehumanize people like that. Yeah. And so what's his name? I'm blanking. What's the congressman in Florida? Randy Fine? Is Fine his last name? I don't know, but did you see the stuff?
Fine with an E in the middle or at the end? Because he might be a Jew.
He's posted
like a nut
oh
job.
my God. It's just, so again, okay, you want to talk
he's
about
the one who's like, we want to kill all their children or something?
Well, someone basically I think someone tweeted like a picture of a dead Palestinian baby, and he said like, good, we need more or something like that.
Hey, yo.
It was something really close to that. I don't want to get this wrong.
Who could vote for someone like that?
Well, Trump endorsed him after that.
After he said it was good that a baby was dead?
I mean, again,
I would love to have him on and just
pull up
ask
the
him
actual
about that.
tweet on that, because
I would like to see that, Tucker.
I don't want to misremember it, but it was something really egregious. And he's, there's a lot of this stuff. It's how you get Nikki Haley signing bombs that are about to go get dropped on women and children. You're like, I'm sorry, that's fucking sickening. Like, what the hell is that? Like, what are we, a part of some death cult or something? I mean, this is like real.
Really? Whoa. I don't even know what to look up for this. Hold on.
And so, of course, then, Douglas Murray's book is like Democracies and Death Cults or whatever. And which is kind of funny in a way to be pro-democracies while you're also making the argument for expertise. Because you would think, like, if you're for democracy, the whole point of experts is to explain it to regular people who will ultimately have the authority of deciding which experts are in charge and which experts are not in charge.
Which is, again, why I don't appreciate the over-intellectualization of these discussions. That everything becomes, well, do you know the exact wording of the law? No, as most people don't. And then you tell me the letter of law. I'm like, oh, yeah. That didn't change anything at all about anything that I said. So let's see what ChatGPT has to say about serial killer Randy Fine. I said, what's the deal with Randy Fine? Is he a serial killer? It seems like there might be some confusion regarding the name Randy Fine. Randy Fine is a U.S. politician from Florida, not a serial killer. He served in Florida House of Representatives and the Senate. As of April 25, he represents Florida's 6th congressional district. Fine is known for his combative political style and has been involved in various controversies. But no, there's no evidence or allegation linking him to any criminal activity resembling that of a serial killer. On the other, okay, so that's on the other hand, you might be thinking of Randy Kraft. Nope. So if by serial killer, I'm talking about extensive military action. Would you know what I'm referring to with? Let's see. Aggressive political style, controversial statements regarding Israel-Palestine. Okay, so I mean, Biden's also made contentious remarks calling Palestine a fictional country. I think serial killer is a little far from that. So we're gonna finish up this chapter unless somebody throws in a little super chat, a little something. Let's feed Morty and keep the party raging.
Will ultimately have the authority of deciding which experts are in charge and which experts are not in charge. There's a little contradiction there. But again, this is my issue, and this is what
That's why I asked, because I was like, that sounds like what you're talking about.
I think, Tucker, in some way, we're really like kindred spirits.
What a higher IQ you have than Douglas Murray.
Shout out to that. And shout out to Nick for the kind words. Thank you.
It
cracks me up.
Well, he's got a very high verbal IQ. He's more talented in a lot of ways than
clever,
me.
yeah.
I'm telling the truth.
No, but I mean that's such a deep contradiction that I doubt he's aware of.
Probably not. But I will say this, and this is where I think in some ways, this is why me and you always get along. I think we're kindred spirits in this way in some sense.
For sure.
But I really do, I mean this.
I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that.
I mean this so sincerely. In my soul, in my heart of hearts, I'm a crotchety old right-winger.
Yeah.
Like that's who I want to be. Okay. That's what I try my best.
Yeah.
I want to be, I'm not just like a Western chauvinist or whatever. Like
I am definitely a Western chauvinist. And hey, shout out to our boy Box. Say, give me a few more minutes of this interview. Will do, sir. Will do. And of course, a treat for Morty. Are you that lazy? You old fuck. You old fuck. All right. He is the overlord. But thank you, sir. Very, very much appreciated. Let's keep the party raging.
Like, I think Western society is better than everything else. I'm a libertarian, and I think it's one of the goofiest things about libertarians in general that they kind of try to run away from that and be egalitarian to some degrey. That's ridiculous. What are you talking? You believe in individual liberty? Well, then you don't get to say every civilization is equal because only one of them respects individual liberty.
Yup. And guys, we are $31 away from the from the swole goal. I think we could do it.
And that's the better one. Okay.
Exactly.
That's the
by your own definition.
That's right. So screw all this other. Egalitarianism is a revolt against nature, as the great Murray Rothbard wrote. I'm against all of that. I don't believe in relativism. I don't believe in all cultures are equal. I would like to sit.
Or don't forget, $11. 11 $1 super chats also will work
here and look down on the Muslim world. That's what I would like to do because my society is so much better.
Wait.
Against all of that, I don't believe in relativism. I don't believe in all cultures are equal. I would like to sit here and look down on the Muslim world. That's what I would like to do because my society is so much better. And if anything, I'd be lecturing you. You guys got to do liberty better. You guys don't really even understand how a free society works. I'd like to.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was parroting someone else or if he was saying this is what he thinks.
Be there. That's actually what That's what confirms my bias.
He's being
is like stuff like that. The problem is I just know too much about our government and what our government's done to the.
Do you though? Because we know you're not an expert and you haven't been
these people, and not just what we've done to them, but that we've been propping up the Islamists for 40 years,
literally.
And so, what are we talking about here? You can't then turn around and go, "Look at them; they're a bunch of Islamists." No, I know what you did. You propped up the Islamists, so you didn't have to deal with the commies. Like, regardless of.
I didn't prop up anybody, so I can say fuck the commies and fuck the Islamists.
Any of that. I insist on one standard for everything. If you're going to say Hamas is a death cult, what the hell is the U.S. government? What is the Israeli government? You get to sit here as my government has in the last 25 years destroyed Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Somalia, Yemen, Ukraine, and now Gaza. That's what my government's done. I don't get to call someone else a death cult. I'd like to just look down at them as a death cult, but sorry, we're the biggest purveyors of violence in the world, not Vladimir Putin. And like, again, it's just, if you.
I felt like getting in trouble.
You look at these things, you just have to have one standard and apply them across the board. This is what I've been arguing the whole time. And if you're going to say, it's like, okay, October 7th was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. Why was it horrible? Oh yeah, because intentionally killing innocent civilians is like one of the most evil things you could ever do. Okay then.
Because people are what matter.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, I don't think that those two things are as directly connected as I think you would argue, but the death cult aspect definitely comes from war stuff more than Christianity. But the fact that Christianity itself is a death cult kind of gives a lot of weight to the claim.
In the end, right? And all your theories are valid to the extent that they serve people, and when they hurt people, then they're invalid. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Simple
So
as that.
you said that there's this brand new media landscape, information landscape, possibility of true free thinking and free speech. I think it's all true because the old.
He's talking about the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of Common Sense. If you are new here, make sure you are subscribed. I am live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it, but live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and been dropping videos almost every single day. So don't just subscribe, ring the bell, because even though they're not going to give you the notifications, it's going to help out.
Old control system has shattered, as you said. So we're living in this just incredible moment.
Alex said death cult equals they think life happens after you die. There's a lot of them. It's not a value judgment. Fair enough. Fair enough. But again, I think that aspect is the religious aspect and not the worshiping death aspect of the neocon military establishment. So it's two different things. It's two different things. They're both bad, but they're just not directly related.
How long can it last?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's very hard. It's very hard to make predictions because it's such a new model.
Right.
And it's like we really don't know much about this. One of the things that I find that which you never want to get ahead of yourself, especially these days. And there's so many things that could happen that it's kind of like impossible to even know what 2028 looks like.
Yes.
But so I'm assuming right now JD Vance is probably going to be the guy.
Hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Maybe, but he seems like he's, and I mean, we're obviously very early, but it doesn't seem like he's making enough of a mark. And he could, but I could definitely see someone else coming out of left field who's just like, oh, yeah, that's way more MAGA. Whereas JD Vance is kind of just like, Trump 2 Electric Boogaloo, but not quite as good. I don't know. I'm just saying it's not that foregone.
And so you look at this dynamic where you go, okay, so part of,
if you remember, you should all be in the after party.
So you look at Kamala Harris's campaign and say Joe Biden the same way, and Joe Biden specifically because he was senile. Not.
What about him? What about RFK?
Joe Biden, younger Joe Biden, while he was never a very bright guy, maybe would have been a little bit different politically. But Kamala Harris, so she kind of infamously now turned down the Joe Rogan experience. She could have been on the show, but she didn't. Now, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, what a stupid move." Turning that down. I kind of disagree. I go, it probably was the right move.
RFK is the next president. I think he's too much of ideologically, he's too much of an outsider. He's never going to be that guy. And while I wouldn't have an issue with that in any way, I think a lot of people, the media about the anti-vax and anti-science and conspiracy thing, I think that's been too much. But as Dave is talking about, it is very, 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 very possible that over the next 3 years that RFK finds a way to normalize his message, which I think would be fantastic, whether he's going to be president or not. But right now he's looked at as too much of like a weirdo, that like Trump is bad, but he is weird. You know what I mean? Weird. Yeah, that whole thing. That's it. I feel like as long as he doesn't do anything completely traumatizing to the country, I think it'll be Vance. And that's the question. But what if somebody else comes along and does something that really gives us a boost in whatever way? That's what that's the kind of landscape I think we're in. I don't know. I'm not saying I don't like Vance or that he couldn't be president. I'm just saying it's not a foregone conclusion.
So
Sure,
if you had no soul and you're working for the Kamala Harris campaign and your only objective in this world was to get her elected, and that invite came in, you're probably going, no. You will be exposed. You can't go do this. The fact is that Kamala Harris, by the nature of who she is as a person and by the nature of what she was running on, is not built for a 3-hour
Baby, just say hi. We know you're here. We know you don't have anything better to do with your life.
unedited, unscripted conversation.
No.
You can't do that. You know, like, say whatever you will about Donald Trump. The man's got a lot of flaws, but he is built for that. He could do 8 hours, I think.
Easily.
You know, like he's
without going to the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah, right. I mean, god damn, how does he do it?
Yeah, which is what I heard. And Joe said he didn't go before or after.
True.
I've never done the Joe Rogan experience and not gone to the bathroom
No,
before or
there's
after.
the mid-break leak always.
Yeah, of course. This is insane. The guy's not human. It's unbelievable. But okay, so going just into 2028, think about
You know what? I'm gonna withhold comment.
what a change this is.
You know what I'm gonna say, but
This is the new standard. To be a presidential candidate, you have to be able to go and do a 3-hour podcast. And actually probably several of them, right? I mean, Trump did a whole bunch of them before he got elected, and she didn't and lost. That's it. And so that in itself just changes everything. Now we have to actually see who you are as a person.
a precedent has been set that if you're not willing to do a 1-hour podcast, that's just you talking. Because remember, she did the call her daddy thing. But what did that do? What did that do? I would argue that was a hit to her campaign. As I said, Republicans fake being for the people better at this moment in time, but neither has real players who actually do. Absolutely right. Nobody in the government gives a flying fuck about you, your family, your friends, the people you love at all. So when you vote, what you are voting for should be somebody who you think is better, their goals, which don't include you, are better aligned with your goals. It's not about, oh, this guy's going to save my life. This guy's going to make my life so much better. No, that is not how politics works. And I think that is where people get confused, because they assume that because we are voting a particular way, that we're expecting that vote, you know, I'm specifically talking about Trump, they're expecting us to think that Trump is some savior. When it's like, no, we understand all of the fucking negative things that you're talking about. That still doesn't change our mind that he is a better leader than Kamala Harris would have been. Just that simple.
So that in itself just changes everything. Now we have to actually see who you are as a person, you know, because it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter what you're talking about for 3 hours.
Yep. I was just talking about the lesser two evils and how it's almost a naive aspect to talk about, well, I won't, which I did. I won't engage in the lesser of two evils thing. But like, if you like chocolate ice cream better than you like vanilla ice cream, and you have a choice between the two, one of those is the lesser of two evils. So it doesn't mean anything. It's just a comparison. It just means the better one.
Hours. It doesn't even matter if you're getting grilled.
So true.
It's just, I get to see who you are.
And it comes out.
So, okay.
Yep. No one can play a role for 3 hours.
Right.
Yep.
So that's the new.
Well, especially with a good host. And I mean, you can have all the issues you want with Joe Rogan, but can't nobody sit at that table across from him and bullshit for 3 hours. Nobody.
Normal. You know, that in itself is a huge transformation.
I think that has to be stopped. And I don't want to be like.
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, at least in our political landscape right now, it is a two-party system, and you can make yourself feel better by opting out, but you may as well not vote then. We're not in a landscape where third parties are doing anything except asking for concessions from the major two parties. So, you know, hey, you do whatever you want. You absolutely have that right to write in Mickey Mouse if you want. But that's not really engaging in our political system. That's just abstaining, and that's fine. But don't fool yourself. Do you though? Do you though? Do you though? If you vote for me, is that really engaging in the political process? It's not. If you write in Mickey Mouse, if you write in Bernie, if you're casting a vote. But again, I'm asking, yes, I agree you vote. Do you engage in our political process in when it comes to voting? Fair enough.
It's too paranoid. But one of the I think some
again, which is your right.
The anger and the hate online is is organic. and it's rooted in frustration and facts in some cases. And it's not all bad, but some of it is so clearly inorganic. It just obviously is, that you sort of wonder, like, is this all a pretext for shutting it down? I just can't escape that.
Yeah.
Yep. And Tom McDonald is an interesting character. I am surprised at the type of reaction he's gotten. I would have expected people to either be like, especially like 3, 4, 5 years ago, like when he was just popping off, I would have expected a lot more of the right to be like, oh yeah, this is awesome. A lot of people found it super cringe. I don't necessarily have a strong opinion either way. I think, his songs do have, substance, and they have something to say. But it's interesting how a lot of people who are, when woke was only on the left, and you could be anti-woke by default by being against the woke left. I'm surprised that those people, or all of those people, weren't like, yes, this is what we need. Why do you guys think that is? Context said, just thought about how government actually runs things. Just look at the military. Everyone thinks military grade means high tech. It actually just means the cheapest, most reliable without innovation. That's what we're talking about. I mean, yeah, they can pull out the big guns when they want to, but it's not the game plan. That's plan B. I never have, but I hope someday someone pops up worth voting for. And, again, fair enough. I abstained in 2020 because I was too scared of my own self. In 2016, I voted for Hillary, and that was haram. So even though I had very much been red-pilled by the 2020 election, I still just wasn't confident in myself. And so I didn't vote for Trump. I've only voted for Trump once. And that was in November. So, the landscape is constantly the landscape is constantly evolving, and that is why it's not just about what people do we like, what positions do we hold, what are the goals today, and then a month later, a year later, whatever, we'll come back to that. It is a constantly changing thing, especially at the level that we're talking about, where we're talking about things that touch everyday people, but they may not be super politically well read, and not as talking down to those people, but someone who has 2 jobs, works 80 hours a week, has kids, has to do shit. Those people don't have the time to read every little thing, and that is a huge portion of this country. It's not supposed to be that you as a citizen have to know every little thing about the government. That's why we have a representative government. But as we've seen, propaganda can lead people to voting in the wrong direction that doesn't actually support the values and the things that they want. And so this is the level where you get to understand, okay, I have a vibe. I have there's a certain energy here. I have a certain tendency here, but let me root this in something. And I don't have to be an expert. I don't have to have been there. I don't have to know every word of the policy. I don't have to know every detail, every case of a deportation in order to say there's too many fucking illegal immigrants here. And you can stand up and proudly say that. I don't know the specifics of this person, that person, that person, that person. All I know is that you guys let things get too bad for us to continue doing things the way that we're doing them. Does that mean you shouldn't understand the details? Absolutely not. But there are very many people who do not have that privilege. And they are not lesser. They don't get a lesser say. And their opinions are not irrelevant. That's what we got, guys. So, I mean, like I've said, I am doing my best here to build something that I think can be something. But I can't do it alone. I need you. I've made it free. I've made it easy. every one of these shows, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, it is free to come and hang out and build the channel, hit the like button, share the video, comment in the chat, comment afterwards. All of that stuff doesn't cost you a dime and takes seconds. I also have a free speech a community platform where anybody is welcome to say whatever they would like. There's no, yeah, you can definitely get banned, but there's no naughty words that you're not allowed to say. There's no thing that, oh, if you say this, you're automatically banned. I want to hear your ideas. I want to hear you lay out your ideas. Maybe you have better ideas than I do. I want to know that. Come through, hang out with us. If you join tonight, like I said, you can come not only to the text part, but where we're all on screen together. You saw it in the video. You don't even have to cam up or anything. You could be anonymous as fuck. But if you want to be part of something that actually matters, then watching YouTube is a good thing, definitely. But it ain't changing the world. So come on through, guys. We are headed to the after party right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much to all of our donations. Of course, we had a box with the $5. Guam Tech came in. We had Indie Film. Unwanted foe through a little bit there. We had Indie Film again. Our boy Box again. And of course, our sponsor of the stream with the $10 PayPal TV viewership. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very, very much, guys. If you are not done partying, I am ready to party. So come on through. The link is pinned at the top of the chat. Come on through. I see the Golden Bear, aka Nick, already in there. And boom, that sound is me joining as well. Let's go party. Once again, guys, this is Morty, and I have been your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, or the after party, we are out of here. Peace.